Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit in order to be comfortable?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Welcome back, everyone. South of the border, I'm your reluctant gringo. And today, yes, it is Thursday. I know I don't usually broadcast on Thursdays, but I was kind of busy on Wednesday, yesterday on my normal day, and today as well. Yesterday and today, YouTube were having some issues with their servers and the live streams and things like that, so I just waited till everything and the bugs were all worked out, and I figured I'd go live today, special little day. It's not like we don't have a bunch of stuff to talk about. And of course, we're going to talk about LA, we're going to talk about ICE, we're going to talk about Trump, we're going to watch his briefing today, or his bill signing today, because he went on for about an hour and a half. And we get the press briefing as well from yesterday's that Caroline Leavitt did, and we're going to watch that and just see their reaction to everything that's going on. A couple of items in Twitter we're going to pull up and take a look at some of the meltdowns and things like that. Things that people are posting just seem silly and ridiculous. But I'll start out right away. If you've been with me for a little while, then it's a little bit of a conflicting for me to talk about immigration and Mexico and Mexicans and all that, right? It's a little bit of a conflicting kind of thing for me. Why? Because, well, I'm an American, but I live in Mexico, right? So I immigrated here. Why? Well, because I'm married to a Mexican citizen who's also an American citizen now, and we've been married for almost a quarter of a century, and so I've got a lot of ties. Over 25 years, you build up a lot of ties with Mexico and the Mexican culture. And so living down here for the last 4 or 5 years, you kind of get a different kind of perspective and view of things. And I'll give you my opinion, but at times I may sound like, I'm for something and against something at the same time. It's just because I can see both sides. But I'll definitely give you my opinion and what's going on and how things are, and sort of, kind of juxtapose that to how it is here. I think people kind of forget that how things are in other countries as opposed to how they are in the United States. So it's an interesting topic for me as a person or as a content creator to sort of really accost in any way, because I am personally embedded in it. There's no way around it. No way else to kind of say that, kind of really explain that. So I'll try to weave my way through it and get to my points. And it's sad to see that every time, for me, again, I'm a former Democrat turned Republican. And it's sad, again, it's just sad for me again to see that the answer to not agreeing with policies or things like that is to riot, is to burn things, is to do what's going on now. Again, I don't believe the narrative. I think it's all a load of crap, really. You got people out there saying, oh, it's a peaceful protest. It's not a peaceful protest. Even if some people are peacefully protesting, it's not a peaceful protest when things get lit on fire, things get thrown at cops. It's not, right? But we're going to get into some of the politics of it and some of the law of it, and we're going to look at some of the social, cultural impact of it, as far as looking at Twitter and some of the liberal meltdowns that just blow my mind. And then today, very interestingly enough, again, the Democrats showed me that, I just don't agree with some of the tactics that are being used. When a Democratic state senator decided to try to, I would see, I hate to use the word violently, but it seemed almost like he was going to attack Kristi Noem as she was giving a talk or answering reporters' questions, and he got tackled and arrested. But let's get to some of it first. And I think the first thing that really to kind of take a look at here is, let's look at the legality of it all, right? So, all right. So basically, we had unrest in Los Angeles about 6-7 days ago. That is for certain. Why did we have this unrest? We had this unrest because there were citizens and non-citizens obstructing federal officers from performing their duty. Again, everything I'm saying is factual. You may agree with what those quote-unquote protesters were doing. You may disagree, but what I just stated was factual. So when you have citizens and then a state government that is almost complicit, if not compliant, in those citizens obstructing the federal government from executing federally stated law, you get what the president did, which is he sends in the National Guard, and he did contact Gavin Newsom. That was, Gavin Newsom says, the president never talked to me. Well, he did. The president actually pulled up his phone and said, here's the record of the phone call. So Gavin Newsom is still Gavin Newsom. So the National Guard shows up, and then, again, things escalate, right? So people look at it as a fascist state, a police state. If that's how you look at it. That's how you look at it. I just know that over 30 different times, the federal government, the president of the United States, has invoked the Insurrection Act throughout history, from Washington all the way up through. Now, some people say the last time it was invoked was 1992 during the Rodney King riots or setting in things like that. That's not true. I think the last time the Insurrection Act was actually invoked officially was 65. I could be wrong about that. But federal troops, National Guardsmen, have been sent into places by the president on many occasions since then as well. It's something that the president has the power to do. You can look at the law and you can try to argue it one way or the other, but it's something the president has. And how do I know the president has the power to do that against the wishes of the governor? Oh, by the way, if you hear somebody clawing or licking or something like that, that's not a somebody. That's my dog, Caesar. And because he's hiding in the office here from the rain. So if you hear Caesar, that's my dog. So in 60, I want to say it's 61 or 62, George Wallace didn't want to desegregate the public school system. And so governor of Alabama. And so Kennedy sent the National Guard down there to force his hand and against the objection of Wallace, right? So it's been done before. There is precedent for what Trump did. Again, whether you like it or you don't like it, there's precedent for what he did. And so Gavin Newsom said he's going to sue to stop this and all that. So he did sue. And a federal judge has refused to block Trump's LA National Guard deployment on Newsom's time frame. What does that mean? Well, Judge Breyer, and that name might sound familiar, Judge Breyer, a federal judge appointed by Bill Clinton, Democrat as well, said that he's not going to make a snap judgment on this lawsuit. Like, you see in a lot of these lawsuits come against executive orders to say, and they don't even have a hearing. The judge just makes an order and then it goes from there. This judge, who is the cousin of retired Supreme Court Justice Breyer, so a lot of law in that family, a lot of knowledge of the law in that family, said, listen, I'm not going to make a decision on this. I'm not going to do a stay of order. I'm not going to do a restraining order. I'm not going to do any of that. What I am going to do is going to give you time, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever his timeline that he set up, to present to me arguments, which is kind of what a judge should do, right? I mean, you just don't make a judgment on one side bringing you some things that may or may not be true. So I totally appreciate the standpoint and the perspective and the method in which Justice or Judge Breyer is approaching this case. Now, could he rule against Trump still? Yeah, he could rule against Trump and say, get the National Guard, get the Marines out of there. Now, people say the Marines are in Los Angeles. As of a few hours ago, the Marines had not actually entered Los Angeles. There are Marines stationed near downtown Los Angeles, and they're ready to rock. I mean, they're going to show up with their weapons, not loaded, but they will be carrying live ammunition. And I beg everyone who might hear this, don't screw with the U.S. Marine. Don't. You may think you can get up in a cop's face and spit and yell and call them names and whatnot, maybe throw a bottle at them. Marines don't lose. They don't. Their mentality is, we don't lose. We do what we have to do to win. So if you challenge a Marine, it's not wise, and it won't be good for anybody. So, and that's the danger of putting the Marines in there, right? But again, there is precedent for federalized national troops to be put into situations domestically, right? It's not a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act in that regard. And the law is extremely broad. It just basically says whatever the Secretary of Defense, it's actually the Secretary of Defense can make the decision. Pete Hegseth can make the decision without the president actually telling him what to do. I don't think Pete Hegseth is going to do that. I think he's going to be absolutely clear and precise with what he's going to do with the president before he makes an action or he's going to get permission from the president before he does anything that would jeopardize the administration. So the federal judges basically said, no, the troops can stay. They're there. We'll hear arguments and we'll figure that out as it goes. So that is what it is. You'll have National Guard troops there guarding federal property and whatnot. And it's a shit show down there, right? The latest thing to happen is this. So Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, former governor of South Dakota, I believe it's South Dakota, was answering reporters' questions in, I believe it was California. So U.S. Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed and briefly handcuffed during a press conference by Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in Los Angeles. The incident occurred when Senator Padilla attempted to question the secretary about immigration policies amid ongoing protests. The event has sparked significant debate over freedom of speech and the use of force. Well, yeah, Kristi Noem's freedom of speech was being interrupted there. She has a freedom of speech. It's her press conference. She's trying to answer questions. She's the Secretary of Homeland Security. That's the person I want to hear from. Again, and so this person came in and, yeah, there he is. It's just a publicity stunt. That's all this is. So all this is a publicity stunt. So let's see if we can find the latest one here. Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah.
Hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary.
Now, he's being pretty aggressive there. You don't go running into that place. I mean, he looked like a threat to me. If I'm a security officer, he looks like a threat to me. Yeah, yep, FBI. I mean, you're a U.S. senator. You're a state senator. You need to be handcuffed and dragged out of there. You should probably be arrested.
Put him behind my back.
All right, cool. Other hand, lay flat, lay flat. Other hand, sir. Other hand.
You don't know if he's carrying a weapon. You don't know what he's doing, but he's coming in there hot. He's coming in there heated. You get what you deserve at that point. If you want to talk to the Department of Homeland Security, I'm sure there's ways in which to do that. Again, it's all a publicity stunt. That's all this is. And again, you get people, Brian, this person here, I guess, I don't know. This is Trump's America. Incredibly pathetic. It's pathetic that Democrats act like that because they shouldn't. It doesn't help the party. It doesn't help the party. So there we go. It looks like a violent thing. He looks like a threat. That's all I can say about that. So with that, there's so much going on. Oh God. Let's see here. What's this one? Let's bring it back here to the beginning. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Here we go.
We won't move till you move. We won't move till ICE leaves our country. This is ours.
ICE leaves the country, our country. It's our country. Those ICE officers are U.S. citizens, so it's their country too. Well, I guess she's moving. We won't move till you move. Well, you're moving. You're moving. Oof. Let's see. Imagine rioting in a country you broke into, then waving flags from the country you broke out of while burning the flag of the country you're begging to stay in. Good point. By the way, I live in Mexico. If I burned the Mexican flag because I was angry with something Mexico was doing, I would be immediately arrested in this country. And then I would be immediately deported. There'd be no due process. They'd be like, here's the border, see you later. So, what is this dude? This guy looks, and I gotta ask, is this like a TikTok trend? Because I see more and more of these people getting in their cars to do the little freak out thing. And like it started with one, and I don't know if it's like a TikTok trend and to get, and that's what it seems like. It seems like it's just a TikTok trend because, I don't know. Okay, maybe I should turn this one down a little bit because he seems loud. Here, okay, buddy, what do we got?
What the actual fuck is happening in this country? We have fucking ICE raids starting tomorrow in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Well, when there's an election and one candidate says, if I'm elected, I'm going to do this, and then the overwhelming majority, landslide victory of the citizens of America, of the United States, vote for that person because they like what he's going to do and the promises he's making, what in the hell are we doing? We're doing exactly what they voted for. You lot. Their elections have consequences. And the majority of U.S. citizens voted in that election knowing full well this was going to happen.
Targeting restaurant workers, people just trying to make a living.
People just, yeah, but if they're restaurant workers and they're illegal, they're going to get targeted because they're in here, the country illegally. Again, it's what he campaigned on. It's what he promised. It's what the country voted for. I don't, you can not like it. You could think it's a terrible thing, but it's what the country voted for. So you talk about democracy, and this is an assault on the assault on democracy is when you don't respect the will of the people from a major election. That's the will.
Let me be clear. ICE has already detained at least a dozen U.S. citizens.
By the way, if you are a U.S. citizen and like you immigrated and you're a U.S. citizen, there are caveats to becoming a U.S. citizen where your U.S. citizenship can be revoked. If you're not a naturalized, born in the country citizen. Yes, there are caveats. They're very small and slim, and so I can believe that some of those might have happened. The thing is, here in Mexico, we don't want you to send them back here. Like I sit here with everyday Mexicans, every day, talk to everyday Mexican citizens that just are here to make a living in their own country and whatnot. They just don't want to be bothered with nobody. And we talk, and they see the people burning stuff in the United States. They don't want them back here. They don't want them back here either. And I've said this before. Immigration is an interesting topic when you start talking about it just affecting the United States. It doesn't just affect the United States. I'm actually preparing a video. I did some traveling over the weekend and through the beginning of the beginning of this week. And it was quite interesting seeing what the effects of illegal immigration into the United States has on Mexico. And it's a horrible one, to be honest with you. There's a lot of, again, everyday ordinary Mexican citizens outside of the big major like Mexico City. Mexico City is a huge liberal city. It's liberal, right? But you get outside that, and outside that liberal bubble, you get to the more conservative areas of Mexico, and they'll tell you they can't stand what's going on because, we've seen the videos of like the migrant or the immigrant caravans, as we called them. Well, they're coming up from all sorts of places, Guatemala, wherever, right? So as they come up, not all of those people are actually getting to the U.S. border and crossing into the U.S. You have to understand, like maybe 20. Let's just draw it up. 25% of those people don't actually make it to the U.S. border. Well, where do they go? So you got people from China, from India, from Bangladesh, from all sorts of places, Vietnam, all sorts of places in Asia, right? You got people from Africa, from the coast of Africa. You've got people from Venezuela. You got people from El Salvador, Guatemala, places like that. The same that you see going into the United States. Well, you've got them all sort of, and I liken it to like the runoff of a river. You got a major river, they got a little bit of runoff. Well, the 25% runoff, they end up parking themselves in Mexico, in Mexico City, places like that. And so you see, if I showed you a picture of the Zocalo, the main downtown area of Mexico City from 5 years ago when I first got here, to a picture that I took this weekend, you would be like, oh my God, what the hell? Like it's amazing. It's just inundated with homeless immigrants, with immigrants setting up like tents full of just like counterfeit stuff to try and sell, blankets on the ground, things like that. There's feces on the ground. There's urine on the ground. Mexico City, I would have told you 3 years ago, one of the most beautiful cities ever to visit. And I still love Mexico City. It's where my wife was born and where my wife was raised as a child, right? And I love a lot of Mexico City, but now you walk down and it's like, it smells. It's polluted in a way that I've never seen before. And Mexico had its own problems to begin with. Now it's got this stuff, and I'll get that video posted by the weekend, so you can kind of see some of that stuff. But there is an immigration runoff, and so it does have a huge negative effect on Mexico. And of course, the president of Mexico is a socialist. She's a socialist. She's fine with being a socialist. That's not an insult to her. That's actually a compliment. She is all about free, open border. She really is. She doesn't believe that immigration should be an issue going back and forth. She doesn't have that same mentality as President Trump. And that's all right. She's a president. She was the first woman ever elected to the office. That's her right. That's her policies. but it's doing some damage and some harm to the country. But you see the negative effects of it. So ordinary everyday Mexican citizens, they don't want this here, right? They have a hard enough time finding a job in their own country. The last thing they need is that type of influx of labor or cheap labor or immigrant labor into their own country. They don't want it here, right? And it's very hard to become a Mexican citizen, by the way. I've been trying to get I'm trying to go through the process of getting my dual residency, dual citizenship. Here, it's a process and a half. It makes becoming an American citizen. Now, to become an American citizen, my wife had to fill out like 3 forms and go do an interview. It's really easy, actually, to be honest with you. As long as you learn a little bit of English, and you really don't need to know that much English. You learn a little bit of history, you can pass like a little quiz, right? Which you can get online and just kind of memorize the answers. But becoming a U.S. citizen is not a very difficult thing to do legally. So, like, people say, well, they're just trying to just here. Listen, becoming an American citizen, again, because I've gone through the process, so you can't tell me it's difficult. I've gone through the process with my loved one, and it's very, very easy. So the idea that they just want to come across the border, it's because maybe they don't want to pay taxes, because if you don't have a social security number, you don't have to pay taxes. Maybe you don't want to, there's a lot of reasons not to do this. And I've worked in corporate America and retail America long enough to see a lot of effects of immigrant labor that was illegal. Right? I once was in the middle of a raid where they came in and everybody scattered. It was funny. I'll tell you that story in a little bit. But it's very easy here in Mexico. It's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. The things you have to have, the requirements financially, the requirements as far as history and language, things like that, the requirements that they want as far as time, and then even just to get your residency, never mind to become a citizen. Okay, so I just don't know what the problem is. Just if you want to become an American citizen, they make it. It really is very easy.
Citizens, let that fucking sink in. While Guatemala
this guy's just like this guy needs a break or something.
Right after giving birth. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, so the narrative that ICE is going in and ripping newborn babies out of the vaginas of illegal immigrant mothers, that's not true. All right, so that's a load of shit. Even CNN came out the other day and they said a reporter from the LA Times came out and they were interviewing her. And they said, yes, there was this report that ICE had raided a high school or an elementary school and had arrested children. And they're like, no, that was false. That's rumor. ICE never went anywhere near a school. So you get all of these things going on, all of these rumors, all of these horrible things being said, and it's just not true. It's absolutely not true. And by the way, the idea of separation of children from parents, if you're an American citizen and you're driving in a car, you're driving your vehicle and you have your kids in the back seat and you're drunk and you get pulled over and you get arrested for drunk driving, they're going to separate your children from you. Anybody who gets arrested for anything who has children with them, they're going to separate your children from you. So this idea that we're arresting people who are committing a crime and we're separating from their children, that's just what we do. That's period. There's no empathy. I have no empathy for that. Like, people, they're breaking up family. No, you're separating children from a dangerous situation, probably.
This administration
this guy goes on for a minute.
From their children.
Yeah, ripping mothers from their children.
Security. Fuck that! And what does the president say? He doesn't know if he needs...
I think there's cuts there, so he's taking breaks. He's probably got a script, and he's going to get his breath, so it's like he's got to get the most dramatic. He's going to keep going. It just seems staged. It seems fake. These things, because now there's like so many of these people in cars doing these videos.
To uphold the Constitution, he doesn't know if citizens deserve...
Yeah, he doesn't know if he's supposed to do this because why? There's Supreme Court cases that are very murky in the past, telling you whether or not a immigrant or an illegal immigrant is required the same due process under the law, especially if they already have an ICE warrant out for them. So what the president was referring to is if ICE arrests somebody and they already have a bench warrant out for their deportation, does that person still require due process, or have they already gotten the due process? That type of case has not been actually decided and probably will eventually in the future. That is why Trump said, I'm not sure if the Constitution actually requires me to do that, but everybody's spinning that into Trump doesn't know what the Constitution says. again, it's just the way you look at it and the way you spin it.
You fucking process. You are the president of the fucking United States. If you don't know if the Constitution applies, you shouldn't be in this damn fucking job. They're going.
Well, I'm glad this guy's a constitutional scholar, so he understands the Constitution. I'm sure if you asked him anything about the Constitution, he would actually know what it is. But all right, so this guy yelling and screaming, that's kind of fun. Oh, here's this guy. Let's see what this guy's got.
A member of ICE.
All right.
Hey, if you're watching this and you're a member of ICE, get the fuck out of LA. Get the fuck out of California.
So wait a minute. Just so we know, federal law supersedes state law. State law supersedes local law. ICE is a federal agency, so you're saying California shouldn't have to follow the same federal. Again, that's kind of how the Democrats started the Civil War, by saying that we're not going to follow federal law. But anyways, just saying. I'm just saying.
Get the fuck off the planet.
Off the planet. Now it's off the planet. Oh, this poor person.
The fuck.
You know, I don't know whether it is because I see maybe he's upset that he's going to have to maybe make his own bed or clean his own pool. I don't know.
Out.
I don't know. Oh, hey, peaceful protest. No more ice.
Yeah, for some of you it has worked, but for some of you, I don't know. It's just...
Oh, people were complaining about the flags earlier. I heard people that they're waving Mexican flags and El Salvadorian flags and this flag. And I just look at it like maybe they're just waving the flag for what country they need to be deported to. Maybe there's like self-identifying. I don't know. But don't send them back to Mexico. We don't, believe me, regular Mexicans, they don't want any of this, want to live their lives in peace. They don't want this stuff that they're like, thank God they're there and not here. Oh, wow. Ooh, look at that. Oh, God bless whoever lives in that apartment with her. Wow. Ooh. All right, hold on. Let's see. What do you think she's going to lecture me on? Let's see here. Let's see.
Don't come on my page
and
say that people should be in this country legally.
I didn't come on your page. You came on my page. But anyways, okay.
Don't fucking do it. This is ridiculous. It's inhuman.
You know, this is the type of person, like when I used to work retail and I was like a customer service manager, this is the type of woman who would bring in something she bought like a year ago and like was all dirty and be like, I bought this toaster and I used it for a year. Now I want to return it. And I wouldn't return it because you've had it for a year and it's used and broken and you broke it. And she would start yelling and screaming and then throw the toaster and spit at you. Like this is what this lady reminds me of. I ran into many of those people. Customer, by the way, if you work customer service out there, God bless you.
Humane. You are a human being, and don't dare.
I'm a human being.
Jesus' name or God.
Jesus. We're invoking Jesus now and God. Okay. I didn't know Jesus was involved. All right, but we're bringing in Jesus.
God's name in this and say that this is what he would want and pretend to be a Christian because you're not.
So this person is telling me what God wants and what Jesus wants. I can't tell her, but look at those. It looks like she takes good care of her teeth, though. She looks like she goes to the dentist.
This is pure evil. You are scum of the earth.
I'm scum.
These are people. These are mothers. These are fathers. These are human beings. And all you care about is where they are geographically. Shame.
No, we care about how they came into the country. That's how. Same as Mexico, where I live, we care about how people come into this country. Being illegal in Mexico before this president, yeah, you'd be put on a plane. Bye-bye. There's no due process. Bye-bye.
Shame on you.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Do better. All right. Hey, look at this. Melted ice. All right.
Melted ice. I'm on TikTok Live, streaming to about 4,000 people. All right. I've been out here since about like 3, I think.
The guy's enjoying himself.
Being here tomorrow?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I'm going Pride tomorrow.
I mean, this guy, I have no problem with it. He looks like he's enjoying himself. He's smiling. He's down there voicing his opinion. As long as he's not hurting nobody, he's not blocking traffic. That's a peaceful guy, I guess. Yeah, I like peaceful. I'm okay with this guy. I don't agree with anything he says, but I'm okay with him.
I don't want to be over here.
We're out here protesting, man. We're out here protesting against these ICE raids. It's about human dignity and human rights.
Human rights. Human rights is the right to live, the right to vote, the right to all those rights. And to have those rights, you have to be a resident or a citizen of the country. So, and if you want to argue with me on human rights, my master's degree is in human rights. So, but anyways. Political science and human rights.
I don't know why the LAPD is out here when we're a sanctuary city.
Because you're rioting. That's because people setting things on fire. That's why the LAPD is out there. And being a sanctuary city just means that the police aren't supposed to cooperate with ICE. It doesn't mean the police are supposed to stop ICE, which would be really bad. That would be amazing.
Sanctuary city. I was part of the movement in Pomona, California to become one of the first sanctuary cities of the United States. But all it means is that we're not supposed to enforce immigration.
Yes, you are not supposed to enforce immigration. Locally and statewide, you are not supposed to enforce immigration. But ICE is a federal agency. I think people need classes in government. I don't know.
And the police are not supposed to cooperate with ICE. We're supposed to make sure that our community and our hard workers and our children and our families are safe.
Okay. Well, when we look at Caroline Leavitt's briefing later, we're going to see about keeping the community safe. Just remind me to, remind yourselves of that. Oh, that's a good. Oh, by the way, so we're looking at this now. This police car, these police have amazing restraint. I don't know how they do it, but Ron DeSantis was on a podcast, and basically the law down there is, or the rule of thumb down there is, if you're driving in your car and there's a illegal protest going on or a non-sanctioned protest, right, blocking traffic, or if they surround your car and you feel like a mob is imminently threatening you because you're just trying to get to work or go pick up your kids or go drop off your kids at school, go ahead and drive right through them. It's not your fault. It's the protesters' fault. I love Florida. I know. I never thought I'd say that, but I love Florida. Oh, look, here we go. We're using refrigerators now to make up barriers to against the police.
Right before you left.
So we're barricading ourselves with where'd they get the refrigerators? I want to know where the refrigerator came from. Is someone in their house going right now, like, where's my fridge? I can't keep my food cold. Like, where's the refrigerator coming from? Someone had to supply the refrigerator, right? Oh, wait, here we go. We're throwing rocks. Peaceful. Look how peaceful that is. We're throwing rocks. We're lighting things on fire and throwing rocks. It's very peaceful. I think the guy said I'm out of rocks. Why I used to love living in Texas. Greg Abbott wouldn't put up with this. It would be bad. Oh, look at that. Oh, heard something fire. All right. Flashbangs, okay. All right, oh, nice. Oh, look, this person grabbing rocks and bringing them up so we can throw them. Nice. Oh, it's this dude again. Oh, he's getting famous. He's getting famous. Oh, I like this one. This is like an hour and a half. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it's a peaceful protest. I guess to fight immigration. I guess the way to say that we want freer or open borders is to steal stuff. Is that the Adidas store? Pair of shoes too? Can I get a pair of shoes and a t-shirt, the guy said? All right. And look, I used to work for Apple, so I used to run Apple stores, right? And so during, the summer, I loved George Floyd. And I lived, in the Houston area. They buried, basically, by the way, how close I was to the George Floyd thing was, I was in Texas. George Floyd was buried basically half a mile behind my backyard where I lived in outside of Houston. Like literally, I passed by driving to and from work, passed by his gravesite every single day. So they took it personally there, very personally. So there were many times I had to shut down the store and barricade and things like that because, you'd have stuff like this happen.
I'm not doing shit. Yo, grab me a shirt.
Yo, grab me a shirt.
I was kidding.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's it's a peaceful protest, I'm sure. Oh, hey, it's our buddy again. This guy's gonna get famous. You see, Ice out of luck. F Ice, okay. Apparently immigrants don't like cold beverages. Things on fire. All right. This lady, I'm not gonna play. So this lady's reporting from outside this this restaurant in DC, which is owned by her husband. ICE raided it because they had illegal immigrants in there. So all right, bye. Wow, there's a face. That's so happy right there. See, we got a Palestinian flag now. So are we doing, what is it? Is it anti-ICE or are we pro-Hamas? What are we doing today? Let's pick something. Pick a lane. Let's stay in it. Oh my God. So some of the stuff is just great. Oh, I love this one. So this Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and she's all huffy. She's going to get into the ICE detention facility.
No, I want you to... Hello. Congresswoman Waters, I just came to use my congressional authority to check on things.
Ma'am, we're lobbying securely now to all visitors.
Excuse me, I need to get in.
Contact our public apparel.
I need to get in.
Okay, now, I will tell you this. Technically, she has every right to actually enter that facility. It is the law that Congress, members of Congress, right, not their aides, not their staff, but members of Congress, it's written down in ICE's own guidelines, can just show up and walk in and tour the facility. Now, there may have been a change to that because LA's rioting and places like they're going to a lockdown procedure and things like that. But technically, she has a right as a person, as a member. I don't agree with Maxine Waters at all on a lot of things. She's someone who's called for violence against Trump supporters and MAGA supporters, told them never give them a moment's peace, said that publicly. So it's hilarious that she got the door slammed in her face. But again, we'll see where that one goes. Oh my God, hilarious. So anyways. Which one do we want to do? Let's do this one. This is from yesterday. This is Caroline Leavitt's press briefing. Let's take a look at this thing. Let's listen to what.
How are you? Good to see you all. What we have seen transpire in Los Angeles, California in recent days is shameful. Left-wing radicals waving foreign flags viciously attacked ICE and Border Patrol agents as well as Los Angeles police officers. These criminals injured police, threw rocks at police cars and officers, burned vehicles, shut down freeways, and lobbed Molotov cocktails.
She's got receipts.
All because the Trump administration was removing violent criminal illegal aliens from the city. These attacks were aimed not just at law enforcement, but at American culture and society itself. Rioters burned American flags, chanted "Death to ICE," and spray-painted anti-American slogans on buildings. But President Trump will never allow mob rule to prevail.
I live in technically what is called a third world country. Right? People call Mexico a third world country. I don't see things like that in this country ever. Like scenes like this? No. 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 Maybe in the very north where like the government doesn't control the country, it's the cartels. Okay. Maybe there where it's just constant gang violence, cartel violence, sure. But like in the rest of Mexico where I just walk around as the gringo, yeah, I don't see shit like that. I only see shit like this when I turn on the United States, turn on the news from the United States. Just kind of keep that in mind, folks.
In America. The most basic duty of government is to preserve law and order, and this administration embraces that sacred responsibility. Democrats like Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass shamefully failed to meet their sworn obligations to their citizens. They didn't have the courage to do the right thing and protect law-abiding Californians from rioters. That's why President Trump deployed the National Guard and mobilized Marines to end the chaos and restore law and order. The mob...
And again, once again, I said this before and earlier. Who thought, in anybody's right mind in California, who thought that, okay, if federal agents get attacked by rioters or by protesters or whatever word you want to give them, who in their right mind thought to themselves, oh, President Trump's not going to do a thing. He's not going to protect his own people. It's like saying that if someone attacked a U.S. military base overseas, President Trump's not going to do a thing. No, he's going to blow something up. So he responded. Of course he's going to respond. And how would you respond? You're the President of the United States and your federal agency, just members of your federal agency that you gave orders to execute the laws of the land that's his job, were just attacked. And the governor is basically like, The mayor's like, yeah, he's going to send in an action. Remember, he was president during summer of love. He's not going to wait. And that's a lesson he learned. And I think he talked about it today. He's like, no, I learned that lesson. I ain't waiting. So.
Violence is being stomped out. The criminals responsible will be swiftly brought to justice. And the Trump administration's operations to arrest illegal aliens are continuing.
By the way, this is Gavin Newsom's. This is what's going to kill Gavin Newsom. Not only just the fires, But when he runs for president, all the attack ads against him, they're just going to show this with his face and him saying peaceful protest, peaceful protest, peaceful protest over it. This ends his presidential aspirations. He's still going to try to run. He's still going to try to win. He's still going to try to control the narrative. And as much as anybody may like him or think he's a great candidate or think he might be able to do the job well, it's over. It's over for him. Because that's all they're going to do is run this footage.
Unabated. When the initial immigration enforcement actions took place on June 6th, Mayor Bass took to social media to say she was deeply angered by what has taken place. Mayor Bass then embarked on one of the most outrageous campaign of lies this country has ever seen from an elected official, blaming President Trump and brave law enforcement officers for the violence. She accused heroic American immigration and customs enforcement officers targeting illegal alien murderers, rapists, and pedophiles of, quote, sowing terror in communities and disrupting basic principles of safety in our city. Around the same time, Governor Newsom claimed that immigration enforcement actions were causing chaos. That's how radical Democrats have become. Their opposition to President Trump has forced them to side with illegal alien criminals in their communities and violent rioters and looters over law enforcement officers who are just doing their jobs. Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom fanned the flames and demonized our brave ICE officers. Instead of defending their city and their state, Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom claimed that in order for the riots and the violence to stop, ICE needed to leave and immigration raids must end. In other words,
the same argument George Wallace gave against desegregation in the early 60s. Federal government needs to leave. I'm not going to obey the law of the federal government. And again, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing.
The position of the Democrat Party is that the federal government is not allowed to enforce our laws and to arrest and deport illegal alien criminals. They're attempting to use a violent mob as a weapon against their own constituents to prevent the enforcement of immigration law. This is deeply un-American and morally reprehensible. President Trump received a clear mandate from voters to reverse the illegal invasion ushered in by Joe Biden's open border and to end the lawlessness represented by Karen Bass in Gavin Newsom's California. President Trump promised to carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history, and left-wing riots will not deter him in that effort. Sanctuary cities and states will no longer be allowed to shield illegal criminals from deportation. Just take a look at some of the illegal monsters who were taken off the streets
I love this
in
list.
Los Angeles in recent days.
Are you in favor of these people?
A Vietnamese national, a known gang member with a conviction for second-degree murder. A Mexican national with convictions for child molestation who was armed with a dangerous weapon and had previous arrests for robbery and domestic violence. A Filipino national with convictions of rape, assault, burglary, and theft. A Mexican national convicted of statutory rape, narcotics violations, and hit and run.
We don't want him back here.
A
Please don't send
Nicaraguan
him back
national with convictions for domestic violence and hit and run, and a previous arrest for willful cruelty to a child. And an illegal alien from Mexico who was arrested after allegedly throwing a Molotov cocktail at law enforcement officers during the Paramount riots on Saturday. He is now being charged with attempted murder. Law-abiding American citizens do not want these public safety threats living.
I don't know how you argue for these people. I don't know how you like, no, we want these people here. Yes, there are some people who are just, the only crime they've committed is entering the country illegally. They get caught up in this. But they entered the country illegally. And President Trump was given the mandate. By saying mandate, he won an overwhelming victory of an election and said he was going to do this. So
in their communities, no matter what Democrats like Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom may claim. And let this be an unequivocal message to left-wing radicals in other parts of the country who are thinking about copycatting the violence in an effort to stop this administration's mass deportation efforts. You will not succeed. Any lawlessness will only strengthen this president's resolve to defend the majority of Americans who want to live their lives peacefully, free from the fear of violent criminal illegal aliens. As President Trump said, order will be maintained and illegal aliens will be expelled from our country. In economic news, the latest consumer price index inflation report came in today below expectations again. Since President Trump took office,
and no one's talking about this because they're only talking about the riots, by the way. Inflation came in way lower than expected. Everybody said because of the tariffs, inflation's going to be crazy. It's not. So now you could argue that maybe the effects of the tariffs have not hit, but inflation's down.
Inflation has come in below economics expectations every single month.
She's heated, though.
Core
You can tell she's
inflation
heated.
held
She's
steady
just
and
ready
remains
to
at the
fight.
lowest level since March of 2021. Wage growth remains strong. The average private sector worker is on track to see their real earnings increase by around $1,200 adjusted for inflation. And prices continue to fall for everyday Americans. Energy prices fell from April to May. Gasoline has fallen each month since President Trump took office, down 12% over the past year. And prices for meat, poultry, eggs, and fish are all down from April to May as well. Under President Trump...
By the way, what's with the eggs? Like, again, I wasn't in the United States for the whole egg thing and the whole inflation thing. Like, here, eggs, like a dozen eggs cost me like 50 cents. And everything's organic. Everything's organic. There's no such thing as organic sections here. Everything's organic. This comes from the farm. What's with eggs? What are you people doing with the eggs? What's going on with the eggs?
Strong leadership, America is beating Joe Biden's record high inflation crisis. And once the One Big Beautiful Bill passes, our economy will boom like never before. This bill is the largest tax cut for middle-class Americans in history. The One Big Beautiful Bill gives a 15% tax cut to working Americans and families. We'll see increased take-home pay of $10,000 per year. The One Big Beautiful Bill expands the child tax credit to $2,500 for more than 40 million American families.
God, I wish I had that because when I had kids
and the One Big Beautiful Bill cuts taxes for overtime workers, saving them nearly $2,000.
Look, say what you want. We've already dissected the One Big Beautiful Bill. We did 4 episodes just going through all 1,000 pages of that thing. There are some really cool things in it. There's some things in it I disagreed with. Right? I let you know what those were, and we had a long discussion on those things. But the thing, like, I remember when I was an hourly worker, and you do 20 hours of overtime, 10 hours of overtime a week or whatever you do. And it's like you get your check and it's like, why did I even do that overtime? They took so much out of it because they take almost 50, sometimes depending on the state that you're in, 60%. I was just like, it wasn't even worth it. It wasn't worth the time I was away. It didn't help me get ahead. The idea that there's no federal tax on overtime is amazing. The idea that there's no taxes on tips will be amazing for people who rely on tips, I think. So again, that's something that you say, hey, that's a really great thing.
Dollars per year, and ends taxes on tips, saving tipped workers nearly $2,000 per year as well. All of these provisions are broadly popular with an overwhelming support from the American people. We need Republicans in Congress to finish the job and send the One Big Beautiful Bill back to President Trump's desk for his signature as soon as possible. With that, we'll get to questions. I'm sure you have many of them today. Here in our new media seat is Elizabeth Mitchell, the White House correspondent for the Daily Signal, who's not a...
By the way, the new media seat, they're doing this with every press briefing that she does. It's basically someone from an outlet or a news source or a podcast or something like that, something from social media, who normally wouldn't have access to the White House press corps. By the way, if you can hear the rains outside, it is the rainy season here in Mexico. Let's see if you can hear that rumbling. That is heavy, heavy rain coming down. Don't worry, I will not be washed away. But here we go. So new media, so they give this extra chair to that person. They get to ask the first question.
...afforded a seat in this room, but today she is. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I have 2 questions, if it's okay. First, a few Republicans on Capitol Hill are suggesting that President Trump scale back deportations, even as ICE is reportedly gearing up for raids in 5 more Democrat-led areas. Would anything dissuade President Trump, and would he consider sending in Marines if anti-ICE violence occurs in these cities?
Well, I think I may have just answered both of your questions with my opening monologue. The Trump administration is going to continue the mass deportation effort that the president promised the American public. Many of you were at those rallies in cities and communities across the country when the president spoke about his commitment to removing violent illegal criminals and anyone who has broken our nation's immigration laws from American communities. And God bless our ICE and Border Patrol who are working hard on that effort. This administration is going to continue that. And it's part of the reason we do.
By the way, I saw an argument today that I'm going to sound a little bit more on the Democratic side here on this. Why don't people just want to stay in their own country, make it better, whatnot? And I'll give you the example. Mexico, it's there's a lot of regulations, because the country is a little bit more socialist than in the last 10 years or so. It makes it difficult. I had family members that lived in the United States that were part of my Mexican family. They were there, for a while, and they moved back to Mexico thinking, okay, it's a free country, right? They remember the country they had. And the amount of regulations and things that made it so much difficult for them just to find a job or have a job or keep what they're making. It really is quite amazing how hard it is to make a living in certain countries that are so overregulated, like the one I'm currently in. So when people get to the United States, they're like, oh, I don't have that I can just go get a job. Oh, I get it really is Candyland. It really is Candyland. And damn, that rain's coming. Hold on. Woo, that's good rain. All right.
Do need the one big beautiful bill to pass as well, may I add, because the bill provides funding to hire more ICE agents and Border Patrol agents, more personnel on the ground.
Oh, yeah. So if you need a job, you've got a U.S. driver's license, you're a U.S. citizen, you're able-bodied, ICE, Border Patrol, they're hiring. They're going to be hiring. And I'm going to do a video too. Speaking of which, they are building the largest, most advanced U.S. embassy ever. And they're building it in Mexico City. It should be open in a couple months. It's going to be crazy, the security protocols and everything on it. I'll try and sneak a picture. You're not really allowed. They don't like it when they take pictures of the embassies in Mexico. The last time I took a picture of a U.S. embassy in Mexico, I immediately had 14 Mexican police officers surrounding me going, why are you taking a picture of the embassy? I'm like, because I'm an American. And I thought it was interesting. And they made me delete the picture. So anyways, there's a lot. When it comes to this immigration thing, there's a lot of job opportunities out there if you're looking for a job.
To conduct this important public safety work.
Thank you. And on another topic, President Trump has indicated that aides to former President Biden who used the auto pen to sign major orders and pardons should be investigated for potential crimes. Does he think that Biden allowing, or at least being negligently unaware of this activity, was an impeachable offense?
I haven't heard the president address whether it's an impeachable offense, but it could perhaps be a criminal offense.
Listen, if someone's in the White House and they have a piece of legislation or an executive order, and they put it on the auto pen without the express written consent of the president, that's a criminal offense. It's technically a coup d'etat. All right? So that's what that is. Let's just face it. So if that really did happen, then that's terrible. Now, when it comes to pardons and things like that, and people are like, oh, they use the auto pen, the president is not required to sign anything for a pardon. The president just needs to verbally communicate it in some way. That somebody gets a pardon or someone gets a reprieve or something like that. So that's a little bit more murky. But if they're alleging that people were just going in going, oh, I like this piece of legislation, the president would never sign it, but I have this auto pen here, and they're just hitting a button themselves, that's called a coup d'etat. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes.
Offense, especially on behalf of staffers who may have been utilizing the president's signature without his authority or consent. I understand that Republicans on the Hill are moving in the right direction to call attention to this and to bring in some former White House staffers who clearly knew more than they ever shared and never addressed with the American public. And so we look forward to seeing where this investigation continues, and I know the Department of Justice is also looking into the matter as well. Alex, good to see you today.
Good to see you, Caroline. Thank you. You mentioned foreign flags being blown during these protests. There are protest activities being organized for this weekend. Part of it are Democrats saying they want to reclaim the American flag. It's also being titled No King's Day. Does the president see himself as a king? And does the White House expect to see American flags being flown during these protests this weekend?
The president views himself as the president of the United States of America. This is a constitutional republic, and we want to see all of our citizens be proud of the country in which they are given the privilege and the blessing to live.
By the way, the president addresses this later on in the other part that we're going to watch, where he talks during his bill signing because they asked him about being a king. His answer is perfect, but I won't spoil it.
And I think that those images of foreign flags being waved with by illegal criminals and by violent rioters in the face of cars blowing up and of flames in the city. I have photos of that here to show you with this violence and destruction that occurred is an image that Governor Gavin Newsom owns. This is his city, and President Trump saw these images, and he said that is not going to be accepted or tolerated, and hence why he deployed the National Guard and United States Marines who have helped to quell that violence.
If I can ask another.
Sure.
If the president does end up deploying any National Guard members, perhaps Marines, to blue states, would he be in contact with the governors prior to this? Would it be necessary?
Well, President Trump was in contact with Governor Gavin Newsom, despite some of the claims he's made in the last couple of
Newsom
days. The
lied.
president
He got
called
caught
the governor
lying
on
again.
Friday evening and told him to let law enforcement in California do their jobs. And the Los Angeles Police Department, by the way, are fantastic people. They are trying to do the work that they've so bravely signed up to do to enforce the law, but they have been kneecapped by incompetent Democrat policies and Democrat politicians who do not allow their local law enforcement to correspond and coordinate with federal immigration authorities. And so President gave Gavin Newsom a warning and said, get it together. 24 hours later, we saw more images like this. We heard about Border Patrol agents who were being the target of rocks. These illegal criminals were throwing rocks at our Border Patrol and ICE agents, and so the president made the decision to federalize California's National Guard. Stephanie.
Thank you. Two questions on the China trade deal, if I may. Sure. First, will the president formally sign the trade deal?
By the way, U.S. Code 12046, I believe, is what gives the president his authority to federalize those troops. So there is a thing in there. So let's see, we're talking about China right now.
Agreed to fully comply. Has a good and respectful relationship with President Xi, and as you know, they had a direct conversation.
I guess the President Xi is going to come visit, but going back to Los Angeles, we're supposed to have the World Cup there in a year. That's going to be a shit show, right? I'm going to stay right here in Mexico and hopefully get to see a World Cup game here in Mexico. I would never travel to a World Cup game in the United States in Los Angeles with the way things are going on there. Texas, yes, but no. Oh, God, good luck.
On North Korea, has the president tried to resume dialogue with Kim Jong-un? There's some reporting that the president sent a letter and tried to give it to Kim Jong-un through some North Korean diplomats through the UN, and they declined to take it and send it to Kim Jong-un.
The president remains receptive to correspondence with Kim Jong-un, and he'd like to see the progress that was made at that summit in Singapore, which I know you covered in 2018 during his first term. As for specific correspondence, I'll leave that to the president to answer. Sure.
Good afternoon. Yeah, thanks. Back to the trade deal negotiations with China.
I don't want to hear about the trade deal in China right now, but the whole North Korea thing, North Korea's kind of been off the radar, right? They've just been there building more nuclear weapons and starving their people.
A lot of common sense, and if you look at some of the imagery that we have received from the Department of Homeland Security and ICE and law enforcement who are on the ground, you will see boxes and boxes of very professionalized masks and rioting equipment being dropped off for these protests.
What she's talking about, and the question was, if these things are being funded and supported, who's funding and supporting these riots? They actually have already made one, if not two, arrests of people showing up and having very professional, I'm sure you've seen the video, masks, gas masks, riot masks, right? Handing them out to their people. So they're getting it from somewhere. It's organized. It's organized somehow. And wherever there's an organization, there's a financial backing. Who's that financial backing? We don't know. What if the financial backing is a foreign country? Well, then we have a real problem. You can actually call this, technically, you could call this an invasion. And if you can call this an invasion, you can absolutely sign the Insurrection Act into law. And that's the danger of people sort of ignoring this, or the other side, or whatever side you want to call it, sort of saying, oh, it's not this, it's not that, not looking at it from a realistic standpoint. If the Department of Justice or the FBI come up and say, this is being funded through a foreign entity, then it's an invasion. Then you can legally you can call it an invasion.
Protesters. So it's a good question the president is raising, and one we are looking into, about who is funding these insurrectionists and these rioters and these protesters and these illegal criminals. And I have updates for you on the numbers, by the way. Since June 6th, there have been 330 illegal aliens that have been arrested as part of these riots in Los Angeles. 113 of those illegal aliens had prior criminal convictions. And overall, and this includes arrests of American citizens, there's been 157 people arrested for assault and obstruction-related charges, including the attempted murder of a police officer with a Molotov cocktail. So who is funding these illegal aliens who are coming in with this very professional riot gear? It's a question everyone in this room who cares about truth should be asking. And we encourage your help in trying to get to the bottom of that question. Indita.
Thank you, Caroline. About
I mean, again, someone's funding it, right? If it's not an organic thing. Some of this is not organic. Some of it is. Like you look at, okay, that's, but some of it is not organic. And so someone's funding it. And where that, it's always interesting to see where the money is. Follow the money, right? Just like with Richard Nixon, Watergate, follow the money. Woodward and Bernstein, the two journalists, follow the money. They figured out where it was. Oh, it was the White House. It was the Republican Party that were doing all the bad shit, right? In this case, you got to follow the money. Where does it lead? I don't know. It'll be real interesting if they do figure that out.
Elon Musk, he issued an apology.
Elon.
Has the president accepted the apology?
Elon apologized.
Or does he think it's too little too late?
The president acknowledged the statement that Elon put out this morning, and he is appreciative of it, and we are continuing to focus on the business of the American people.
And has the administration started a review of Musk's government
Okay, so the story is actually this. J.D. Vance, the vice president, and Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, by the way, she is a no bullshit kind of person. She is, you don't cross her. She's the real gatekeeper, pit bull, bulldog for President Trump. Trump loves her. Basically, they called up Musk and said, you've got to call the president and apologize. You got to stop this stupid shit. I think Musk just came to a senses and go, yeah, this is stupid. You know, this is way out of hand. And I don't know if it was a distraction or not, or if it was, but I don't think Musk is going to be, going to the birthday party anytime soon or something like that. But he's one of the rich. He's I don't know if he's still the richest. He might have lost that title. But as far as an entrepreneur goes, I mean, one of the biggest entrepreneurs in the world. It'd be nice if he and the president got along. I mean, if President Trump can get along with Tim Cook from Apple, he can get along with anybody.
contract, something that the president said he's considering?
What do you mean by that?
Has the administration started a review of the contracts that Musk and his companies currently have?
No efforts have been made on that front as far as I'm aware.
Okay. And just one more, if I may, on just everything sort of we've seen so far with the president's response to the LA protests. There is criticism that seems to suggest that the president responded the way he did because it was a deliberate, calculated attempt to sort of shift focus away from his feud with Musk. How would you respond to that?
The president responded to the LA riots.
So the accusation here, let's break this down. They're accusing the president of sending in military personnel because he didn't want people talking about him and Elon Musk. That is some mental gymnastics right there. We are going to activate the military on a domestic basis for maybe the 32nd time in the history of the United States to distract from Elon Musk. I don't know. I can't wait to hear the answer. Here we go.
Condemning the violence to
from Musk.
That's an incredibly disingenuous attack. The president saw images of Border Patrol and ICE agents being hailed with rocks and Molotov cocktails. He saw vehicles being burned to the ground with illegal aliens flying foreign flags, and that's what prompted the president to have this response that has clearly worked, because last night in...
I mean, what an incredibly stupid question. And if you think that out there, that the president would put troops in harm's way because he doesn't want people to talk about him and Elon Musk, I don't think this president cares about what you talk about. He has a way of controlling his own narrative, but not that way. Nope. I mean, that's a bridge too far for me. I think with him, with any recent president, I don't think they would put troops in harm's way to distract from a situation as minuscule as a public spat with another person. So
Los Angeles, you didn't see many of those images. And I would add the governor and the mayor need to actually do more. I know Gavin Newsom had a big address to the nation last night. I guess he thought that's what it was for maybe his future political ambitions.
He wants to be
but
president.
He spoke a lot of words. We haven't seen
He ain't
action.
gonna be president.
California has been a mess for years because of the incompetence of Gavin Newsom. So the president was responding to that only. Caitlin.
Caroline, 2 questions for you.
Sure.
Over the weekend, Secretary Noem sent a memo to the Pentagon asking Secretary Hegseth to have and direct the military that's on the ground in LA to arrest and detain what she said were lawbreakers. Is the president okay with that? And under what authority would the members of the military be able to arrest people inside the United States?
I can't speak for a letter that came from the Department of Homeland Security. I can't speak for the president and what's currently happening on the ground now. And as you know, the president federalized the National Guard under U.S. Code 10, which he has the authority to do. And our United States Marines and the National Guardsmen and women who are on the ground right now are helping to create a peaceful environment for ICE and Border Patrol, who were being, again, hailed with rocks, who were being violently and viciously attacked. They needed reinforcements, and so our United States Marines who are on the ground are providing those reinforcements to ensure the environment is peaceful so that these raids and deportations can continue.
But he realizes they can't actually arrest people unless he invokes the Insurrection Act, which, I mean, seemingly was not something that was in Secretary Noem's memo, a clear distinction she did not make there.
Again, you're trying to conflate a letter that was sent to the Department of Homeland Security to the president's legal authority. The president understands the legal authority that he invoked, and that's the current situation right now.
When it comes to federalizing the National Guard, what is the specific criteria that the president is using for
It's
when
whatever
he's
he
deciding
thinks.
to do that, and in which states?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. He wants to see an end to the chaos and the violence. He doesn't want to see law enforcement officers.
The president authority, according to law, is for any duty that he sees fit. He can federalize those troops. It's a very broad, it's a very open interpretive law that, yes, I agree that probably Congress should go and look at and be like, we got to scale this back. But the law is what it is. It's whatever he sees fit. And then once he sees fit, and he gives the okay to the Secretary of Defense, the law includes the Secretary of Defense in making those decisions on his own as well. So as they're talking about the president, you also need to keep in mind that, again, Pete Hegseth can make, once these troops have been put in play, he can pull whatever lever he wants. Again, he's not going to do that without the express consent of the president, but theoretically he could.
Being attacked. He wants to see peace. He wants law-abiding Californians to be able to bring their kids to school, to be able to go to work without seeing this violence in the streets. That's what the president's hoping for, and that's why he's taken this action. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions on 2 separate topics. One has to do with the military parade taking place here in Washington this weekend. There's a lot of security around the White House complex, around the Capitol complex, even along the tidal basin. Is that just proactive? Are you expecting anything in particular in terms of unrest like we've seen in Los Angeles?
These are proactive security measures to protect those marching in the parade, many of whom will be veterans and our brave men and women in uniform and Gold Star families. There's going to be military families from around the country who are flying into this parade. And of course, it's to protect the spectators who will be enjoying this incredibly patriotic show on Saturday, and I hope you all join us there.
And then secondly, Secretary Pete Hegseth testified on the Senate side of the Capitol today, and he was asked about America's, the administration's view of Vladimir Putin's intentions, and specifically it was asked whether or not his intentions go beyond, his territorial ambitions go beyond Ukraine. When that question was posed to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane replied that he does believe that his territorial ambitions go beyond Ukraine, but Secretary Hegseth says it's not clear at this point. How does the president view this issue?
The president has spoken on this. He said, as he calls it, he believes Ukraine was always the apple of Putin's eye. And he made it very clear to Putin in his first term not to invade Ukraine. Putin didn't invade Ukraine because of President Trump's peace through strength foreign policy agenda and the effective deterrence policies that he implemented in the first term. Unfortunately, because of the weakness and incompetence of the previous administration, Vladimir Putin made the decision to invade Ukraine. And now we have this brutal war, which the president is working very hard to end. Jasmine.
Yeah.
so much, Caroline. The president warned that
It is
protests on Saturday
with Ukraine. That was always Putin's goal. And Putin's openly talked about that before. He talked about that for years and years and years and years. There's a great documentary, The Turning Point, on Netflix, American Cold War and the Bomb. And it really mirrors, and it talks about when it gets to Putin and all that, and you see throughout the documentary as he becomes more and more popular within the party of Russia and things like that, and becomes the president the first time around. He does openly talk about Ukraine. So I think it's clear that that's what he wants. I don't think he's thinking anything beyond that, be honest with you. With the quagmire that he's in right now, I don't think he has the capability of thinking anything beyond that, because he can't even get Ukraine. Right now, that's all he's thinking about.
would be met with force. Can you clarify what kind of protest President Trump does support or find acceptable? The president absolutely supports peaceful protests. He supports the First Amendment. He supports the right of Americans to make their voices heard. He does not support violence of any kind. He does not support assaulting law enforcement officers who are simply trying to do their job. It's very clear for the president what he supports and what he does not. Unfortunately for Democrats, that line has not been made clear, and they've allowed this unrest and this violence to continue, and the president has had to step in.
One question. So if there were peaceful protests on Saturday for the military parade, President Trump would allow that?
Of course the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
Raquel, and then I can go.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
She sounds like Trump.
One about Israel. Yesterday, the U.S. ambassador to Israel said the U.S. no longer is pursuing the goal of an independent Palestinian state. Can you confirm that the president is no longer supporting a two-state solution? And is President Trump considering diplomatic action against countries who takes action against Israel during next week UN conference?
Right now, the president views the situation in Israel and Gaza as deeply unfortunate and needing to end. And the president is realistic about the current state of affairs in this region of the world. And that's why the president has said the number one focus and priority of the administration is to release all of the hostages from Gaza and to end this conflict as soon as possible. The administration is still pushing very hard for the release of all the hostages. And as for what happens next, clearly Gaza...
I don't believe there's going to be a two-state. I think U.S. foreign policy is going to change on this. I think the whole idea of a two-state solution is just not going to be feasible anymore, at least for this administration, what's going on. So from this Arab to all of you, October 7th, that attack on Israel, that was the last straw. I don't think Israel is going to care to hear anything about a two-state solution anymore.
Gaza is an uninhabitable place. It needs to be rebuilt with the help of our Arab partners, and the president wants to see that happen as well. Take a couple
Just
more.
one on the G7 engagement. President Trump is traveling there on Sunday. Other presidents beyond the G7 leaders are also going. President Lula from Brazil, President Sheinbaum from Mexico, and President Zelensky from Ukraine are also going. Do you have confirmation if President Trump is meeting any other leaders on the sideline of the G7?
Yes.
To know about the
who's he meeting? That's not
I can confirm there will be quite a few bilateral meetings between the president and other foreign leaders. The White House is still working very hard to finalize that schedule, and we will provide that for you as soon as we have it. Great.
Thanks, Caroline. Just back to the China trade deal. Can you talk about the status?
All right, China trade deal. We're going to skip over that.
To the best of my knowledge, the Treasury Department took action after the president made that announcement.
And protesters together. Obviously, they're quite different from your earlier answer. I'm struck by the fact that the president has not at any point said the most important thing here is to protect the First Amendment rights of peaceful protesters. So I'm wondering, where in his hierarchy of interests does he place that? Is the First Amendment protection the most important? Is stopping violence most important? Why is he not out saying all peaceful protesters will be protected?
I think two things can be important at the same time. And the president, as I just answered, supports the right of Americans to peacefully protest. He supports the First Amendment. But that is not the majority of the behavior that we have seen.
By the way, peaceful protesting doesn't mean you get to shut down traffic and keep people from going from work or going to school or getting to a hospital, because they're sick or they have an emergency. That's not a peaceful protest. That's still not a peaceful, even if you're not throwing rocks, setting things on fire, whatnot. If you're obstructing the lives of other people, that's not a peaceful protest. So That's how I feel, and I think that's how everybody else with common sense would feel. There's a video out there of this yahoo of a white guy blocking a young black woman who says, I'm just trying to get my kids dropped off so I can go to work. And he's like, nope, not today. Oh, poor you. You can't go to work, he says to her. It's amazing, but...
Seen taking place in Los Angeles. We have seen mobs of violent rioters and agitators assaulting law enforcement officers, assaulting our federal immigration authorities. And we have seen, as I said, this goes back to what this administration is trying to do and accomplish, and that's enforcing law and order in our nation's communities. And it's removing public safety threats from communities in Los Angeles.
You're saying the majority have not been peaceful, the majority have been violent.
I just read for you the arrest numbers. We've arrested nearly 400 illegal aliens alone, just illegal aliens who have been arrested in these riots since June 6th, since they began.
Thousands of people on the streets.
Yeah, and we've had hundreds of people who have assaulted law enforcement officers. Are you saying that that's that's appropriate behavior?
No,
Are you
no,
saying
I'm not
that
saying
the
that at
president
all. I'm
shouldn't
just
take
trying to
action?
figure out-
The Democrat governor and the Democrat mayor of Los Angeles have failed their citizens. And the majority of Americans, the majority
Sounds like
of
the Green Arrow.
Californians
You
do not
failed
want
this
to
city.
see law enforcement officers being assaulted in the streets. And thankfully, the president took action and stepped in to protect our federal law enforcement agents, to protect federal buildings, to protect the federal mission of deporting illegal criminals off of our streets. And that mission will continue every day as far as we're concerned. Thank you, guys.
And yes, there's a ton of people out there that are peacefully protesting. There are. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and take the other side in a hard way that's like everything is violent. It's not. It hasn't been entirely all violence. There's been a great deal of violence and a great deal of violent protests and a great deal of criminal activity. But there are groups of people out there who do passionately believe that the other side of the issue of allowing people to be here, whether they're illegal or not, or to be here illegally, or be in the United, I shouldn't say here because I'm in Mexico, to be in the United States illegally, as long as they've not committed any other crime, they're just trying to work. Like, I can completely see that because I go back to my days working for a major retailer where I worked overnights, and my entire team, now we had this thing called E-Verify, right? It's this thing Clinton put in place, the Clinton administration put in place. And supposedly that once you get their numbers or their visa or their social, or you get a social security number through the hiring process, the HR team would put it through the E-Verify system, and it would come back whether they had permission to work in the country or not. Well, the E-Verify system sucked. It basically didn't work. It was fooled all the time because I would say 90% of my 100 workers overnight were illegal immigrants. A majority of them from Brazil, some from Mexico, some from other countries. And then one night, ICE, or whatever you call them at the time, whatever they were called at the time, I don't know what they're called, ICE back then, came in and everybody scattered. Some of them weren't lucky enough to be fast enough, and that was it, right? But the majority of those people that work for me, I would say all of them, I want to say, I don't know, can't recall any specific examples of them doing anything horrible to other people, like criminal activity, like theft or robbery, and like that. But all they were there, they would just be there working their tail off, and they worked their tail off. I loved every one of them for working their tail off for me because they worked for me, right? I had to appreciate that. But most of their money, they weren't spending it in the country. They were taking it and sending it back home, whether it was to Brazil or Mexico or whatnot, which is why also we go back to the big, beautiful bill. There's a part in there called the remittance tax, right? So if you send money to a foreign country through certain channels, you have to pay a certain percentage of that money in taxes back to the U.S. government in that moment. It's like a fee, a service fee. So because there's so much of that going on. So anyways, so I absolutely see the other side, that people are just here to try to make a living because again, the U.S. dollar stretches. Like if you go and work 10 years and you work 2 jobs and you work 80 hours a week for 10 years, and I know that sounds like a real sucky life, and it probably is, but if that's what you want to do in the United States and you spend nothing on yourself, you just live like a homeless person, 1-bedroom studio apartment, sharing it with 3 other people. Literally, that's what these people were doing. They're working for me. and you're sending all your money back, that money is going to last you till you die in whatever foreign country that you are down here, because the exchange rate is so just incredibly lucrative in that regard. So like, I get it. Like, I get that. Like, okay. But on the same standpoint, we talk about, well, they're not committing any crimes. Well, technically they are. They're not paying their taxes. They're paying payroll taxes being taken out of their check. But there's so much manipulation of their own. People would say, yeah, I have 10 kids. They don't have any kids. And so they're getting refund checks back. Like, how do you get it? I remember one lady goes, I got my refund. I got these many thousands of dollars. And I'm like, Mira, how did you get, like, I told them I had 10 kids. I go, how many kids do you have? She's like, I don't have any kids. I'm like, so that happens, right? That happens. Or they're using social security numbers that aren't theirs and they're belong to dead people. How do I know that? Because I had the authorities come in and tell me that. I once had so I had one day I had this young girl was hired and she was going to join my team, and her name was Bailey O'Donnell. So I think when I hear the name Bailey O'Donnell, I'm thinking redhead, Irish, something like that, right? 10 o'clock at night, girl shows up, get her orientation, whatnot, and it's just a little Brazilian girl. And I'm just like, what's your name? Bailey. I'm like, okay. I don't buy that, but okay, you got through the E-Verify system, let's go. About 6 months later, as I'm getting ready to leave in the morning, my boss is there and he's opening up. The store's opened up. He says, hey, Matt, because me on a walkie. He says, hey, bud, can you come to the services? So I said, sure. And I get up there, and because the real Bailey O'Donnell was there and wondering why she's owing taxes for working at the store. Well, because the social security number was stolen, right? And so this stuff happens. It's rampant. It really is. So it's not just that they committed the crime of being illegal in the country. There are financial crimes being committed, tax crimes being committed. And again, if you and I, as an American citizen, were going to falsify taxes or cheat on taxes or do something in that regard and we got caught, we're going to jail, like, for a few years. Like, it's not like, oh, we're going to go to jail for like 3 months. No, 5, 10 years. Unless your name's Hunter Biden. But anyways, but that's the thing. So there are other I think if you stopped the majority of people who are illegal in this country and went through their went through their financial statements and things like that, you'll see that there is some funny business going on. And that's just reality. That's not me picking on and saying bad people. It's just reality. People try every dollar you can get. Hey, you want to squeeze out a dollar, squeeze out a dollar. There's always a risk to the reward, right? So there was one other thing I was looking at too before we get to President Trump. There was one other, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here again because it was. I probably won't be able to find it, but it was, to me, it was funny. By the way, Twitter's been acting so funny today. So funny. Oh, is that the plane that crashed in India? Like 242 people on board died? Oh man, that thing just went down. Oh, by the way, one person survived that. Oh, I didn't know there was video. Oh, Jesus, that plane's full of people. What? You see how calm the guys are talking about? Like, this plane just blew up. They're like, yeah, what do you want to have for lunch? Let's watch that again. So I don't see any smoke coming from the engines. The thing just went down. It had to be was it mechanical fault? Was it a pilot on a mission? You know what I'm saying? It's Boeing 7878 Dreamliner. Good luck, Boeing. Oh my God. 242 people just died in that explosion. That's what you saw. That's what you saw. What is this? Oh, the North Sea videos? Yeah, Jesus. Anyways. Let's see here. Let's explore here. Oh, Spaceballs. Wait a minute. I got to see this. All right, I know we talk about politics, but this is Spaceballs. You indulge me here. Hold on. Let's get the volume up on this. I'm going to get copyrighted for it. I don't care. 38 years ago, there was only one Star Wars trilogy, but since then, there have been a prequel trilogy, a sequel trilogy, a sequel to the prequel, a prequel to the sequel, countless TV spin-offs, a movie spin-off of the TV spin-off, which is both a prequel and a sequel, not to mention 2 Dunes, 7 Jurassic Parks, 2 Avatars, plus 3 upcoming Avatars, making 5 Avatars, 36 MCU movies with 2 different Robert Downey Jr.'s, DCU attempt number 1, DCU attempt number 2, an animated Lion King, a live-action animated Lion King, a live-action animated Lion King prequel, 8 Harry Potter movies, a TV series remaking the same 8 Harry Potter movies, a whole streaming service of Star Trek, 7 Alien movies, 2 of which were also Predator movies, not to be mistaken for the 6 Predator movies that are not also Alien movies, Prometheus, which is kind of an Alien movie, 4 Beatles movies, and Oppenheimer. But in 38 years, there's only ever been one Spaceballs. Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Bring it on! In theaters 27. Oh, come on! Until 2027. I gotta wait. Mel Brooks, you better stay healthy for this.
After 40 years.
There he is.
We asked, what do the fans want? But instead, we're making this movie. May the Schwartz be with you.
Oh. Will Rick Moranis be coming out of retirement? I don't think Rick Moranis has come out of retirement to do that. He's retired. I think it's a lot of things in his life that were hurtful that happened. So, but anyways, all right, let's get to President Trump. There he is. There he is. How you doing, President Trump? Oh, he's got the music and everything today.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Where is he? All right, so this is for the EV bill signing, but of course he gets to do a lot more stuff.
Well, thank you very much. I just said to Mike, this is fantastic. I didn't think we were going to see this coming for a while. Congratulations. This is a very, very important thing. Thank you very much, everybody. This is a very important thing we're going to be discussing. Please sit down. Thank you very much. This is good news indeed. People said it couldn't be done. You got it done. I just have to sign, right? That's very good. This is really something. And it has to do with the California Auto Regulation, CRA. It's been a disaster for this country. And
it's like anti-California week for him
for being here. We officially rescue the U.S. auto industry from destruction by terminating the California electric vehicle mandate once and for all.
Okay. Those must all be automotive.
They said it couldn't be done.
CEOs?
But boy, it's had us tied up in knots for years. And they'd pass these crazy rules in California, and it would be 17 states would go by them. The automakers didn't know what to do because they're really building cars for 2 countries. When you have 17 states, you're building cars for 2 countries. And I want to congratulate you all. The Senate, the House, the whole thing. It's incredible. I was going to sign a executive order and give it a shot. The one good thing with this, number one, it holds up forever, and number two, unless somebody votes it out, they'll never do that. And it's just so much better, huh? It's so much better. That's so great. Very proud of you. We're joined today by...
All right, so basically the bill is, or there's going to be three things he signs. The major one is basically, all right, California, 17 other states, they have certain emission standards. They call it the California emission standards. Put my glasses on correctly here. So if you're Ford and you make a car, you've got to make a car that meets the standards and requirements of those 17 states, the California emission standards and whatnot, which are way more higher. You got to, different type of gas. There's a lot more into it than just making one part. It's quite expensive, right? And then you make another car that meets the standards of the rest. So this basically uniforms the standard, gets rid of the California emission standards, and basically makes it uniform for the rest of the country. So basically, auto manufacturers only have to pay for the manufacturing of one type of vehicle, development of one type of vehicle per model.
The great Speaker of the House. I think he's going to go down as a great Speaker of the House, too. I may be wrong. I may be wrong. Who knows? Who the hell knows? I think he is. And he's doing something, the only thing I would say is more important than this one, and I'll tell you what, it's almost close. That's how big this is today. But the great, big, beautiful, I added the word great, I used the word. The great, big, beautiful bill. It's going to be one of the most, I said it this morning to a group, I think it's the most important, one of the most important pieces of legislation ever signed, ever approved. So it's going to be something very special. Thank you very much. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, thank you. Secretary Sean Duffy, and they had a problem in India today, and you're on that. Sean's doing a tremendous job. Secretary Chris Wright, everybody said you'd never be able to get him. He's the most talented man, they say, in the oil and gas industry. I'll let you know in about 2 years if that's true. Well, Doug Burgum, I wanted Doug Burgum to head up energy because he was so successful in North Dakota. He's governor. And he said, sir, there's one person who's much better than me. I said, who? They said, Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is Chris Wright? I had no idea. Now everyone knows Chris Wright. He's going to be more famous than me. But he said, there's a guy named Chris Wright, and if we could get him, he'd be better than I am, sir. And if you know Doug, Doug's not here, is he? If you knew Doug, he's always working someplace. But if you knew Doug, you'd know that he doesn't say that often. And he did. And Chris, you're doing great. But I don't like the oil prices have gone up just a little bit over the last few days. I was going to call it, just really start screaming at you. Are we okay? Nothing wrong, right? It's going to keep going down a little bit, right? Because we have inflation under control perfectly. You probably saw the records. Everyone's on television saying, what's going on here? Trump has proven to be right. All of these things. We've taken in $88 billion in tariffs in 2 months. $88 billion with no inflation. And if we're smart, there won't be. Now, we'd like to get this guy to lower interest rates because, if he doesn't, we have to pay.
All right, this guy, he's talking about Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman. He's the one person in the executive branch of the government that President Trump cannot fire. Cannot fire. Even the Supreme Court came down with a ruling basically saying, because some other employees that Trump fired sued, said he's not allowed to fire us. And the Supreme Court said, no, you're part of the executive branch. He's the president. He can fire you. And literally within the entire opinion of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts wrote it himself. The only person protected is the Federal Reserve Chairman. He cannot be removed by the president. Now, the Federal Reserve Chairman is driving President Trump nuts, and he'll explain why. It's all about wanting to lower the interest rates. The Federal Reserve Chairman is refusing to lower interest rates. But here we go.
We have a lot of short-term debt. Obama gave it to us originally, and Biden carried it on. They like short-term. I like long-term cheap debt. But a lot of the debt comes through because Biden, he didn't do it. I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. But somebody approved short-term debt. It's all over the place. And it comes due starting very soon. And if we would lower the interest rates by 1 point, we'd pay about 1 point less. That's $300 billion a year. Can you believe it? 1 point. If he'd lower it by 2 points, we'd pay $600 billion a year less. That's for years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever we make it. But we can't get this guy to do it.
Nope.
And the fake news is saying, oh, if you fired him, it would be...
Well, you see, the fake news, if you fired him. The fake news obviously doesn't read the Supreme Court decisions. Trump is very well aware he cannot fire him. He would have fired him already. It would be against the decision. He'd be going against the decision made by the Supreme Court. So he knows he can't fire him. So he's just going to try and pressure him. Now, Jerome Powell hates President Trump, does not like him on a personal basis, and more importantly, does not agree with him on an economic basis. All right? Jerome Powell wants to keep interest rates high right now, believing it's best for the economy. President Trump, as he explained, it's best for the U.S. economy to lower interest rates because inflation is down now. And again, those two are going to go back and forth. But in the end, this is one of the few places, and I think this is what really upsets President Trump. He has no power in this except for the power of the bully pulpit to try to bully or pressure. I don't want to use the word bully. I know that's not a fair word to use, to pressure Jerome Powell to do that. But he's not going to. Jerome Powell's not going to. So
bad. It would be so bad. I don't know why it would be so bad, but I'm not going to fire him. I just want him to,
he
we
can't
call him
fire
Too
him.
Late, right? Too Late is his nick, like Too Tall Jones. He was Too Tall, T-O-O. And I just say this because we want to get rid of inflation, and we have. But we're going to be paying more for debt. And all he has to do is lower it. Europe's done 10 lowerings. We've done none.
Yeah, Europe's lowered their inflation rate greatly.
Nobody understands.
Many times.
Actually, today when the numbers came out, they were so good. You saw yesterday's numbers, incredible. No inflation.
Oh, shit. Hold on. Something just flashed on the news and hold on. Oh, shit. Israel strikes Iran over its nuclear program. Oh, crap. Israel's defense minister said that the country has carried out a strike against Iran, pushing the region towards a new conflict with broad consequences. The strike came hours after U.S. and Israeli officials had warned one was imminent and cut short a U.S.-led effort to resolve the standoff over Iran's nuclear program diplomatically. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz declared a state of emergency and warned his population that Iran was expected to retaliate for the attack by firing missiles and drones at Israel. The United States has ordered all non-essential personnel out of the Middle East. Ah, shit. Ah, shit. Well, okay. I guess, okay. That's not going to be good. That's not good. Let's continue with this. If more news breaks, I'll let you know.
Today just came out, same thing, no inflation. They're all shocked. All these guys are watching from business, CNBC, and all of these different networks. Maria Bartiromo actually got it right. She's been getting it right for a long time, that one. I hope she's appreciated.
I mean, if they just did this, in this moment when he's speaking this morning, he knows Israel's going to strike. He already in his mind knows. He has the information.
I will say that
Israel's going to strike Iran.
They can't believe what's happening. But if I could, because we can discuss, we got a lot of press, we got a lot of cameras rolling right now. Not that I like doing it, because I don't. But if we cut our interest by 1 point, for years, we save $300 billion. If we cut it by 2 points, we save, because it's pretty equivalent. We're going to spend $600 billion a year. $600 billion.
It's a lot of money to save.
Because of one numbskull that sits here. I don't see enough reason to cut the rates now. And the problem he's got is that, and I explained to him, look,
I'm pausing because I'm still digesting the news I just read that Israel struck Iran over its nuclear program, which means that they were close. They were closer than what what people wanted us to know to getting a nuclear weapon. And sorry, they can't have one. I know where the United States, I know the argument, they shouldn't dictate to anyone who can have a nuclear weapon because we're the only one that's ever used one in war. I get that argument. Too bad it don't work. It's Iran. They sponsor terrorism around the world. Sorry, they can't have a nuclear weapon. Israel certainly will not allow them to have a nuclear weapon. Israel is going to do whatever they can to defend themselves at this point in time. I'm dumbfounded. So at this briefing that he's giving, he's going to be signing these bills. He's got this information in advance. Israel has told him already. Israel's not going to strike Iran without telling the United States, which is why the removal of all non-essential U.S. personnel. So we might have a new war, folks. Might have a new war. One that doesn't end pretty. Those wars don't end pretty. Oy.
If inflation went up,
back to inflation.
Cut your rates now. There's no inflation. We got it down. We got prices down. We got gasoline down, and you'll keep it going down. And
he's pointing to the Secretary of Energy.
Gasoline's down. We drill. It's drill, baby, drill. That's why it's going down. But we're all that. But think of it. I said to him, he was in my office a couple of days ago. I said, if you think there's inflation, let's find out. Because I think we're going to keep it down. I think gasoline's going to be so far down. Oil, energy, it's so much energy. We have so much energy, we don't know what to do with it. But let's say there was inflation in a year from now. Raise your rates. I don't mind. Raise your rates. I'm all for it.
Makes sense.
I'll be calling you. He'll be too late for that, too. But raise your rates. You don't have to keep them up here. If it's going to go up.
Listen, I don't believe this man's 79, going to be 79 years old in a day or two.
And we're going out to finance.
At 79, I'd be lucky if I'm not just a vegetable crapping myself. If I make it that far.
Who's the
man's 79 years old.
I said, it's me. Unlike
like him, don't like him. He's 79 years old. Look at him.
About how to
just freestyling up there.
He was much better at sleeping than me. He could sleep on a beach. He could sleep on a beach with cameras rolling. I can't do that. But I had an idea. I gave it. They said, this is really, we'll go short term for a year. Let this guy get out of office. Somebody will come in, cut it a couple of points, and we'll save ourselves $7, $8, maybe even $900 billion a year. What is he doing? Why doesn't he lower these rates? And with that, we'll get on to the California standard, which is a disaster, okay? So, Chris Wright, you're going to get the numbers down. Thank you very much. Lee Zeldin, one of the most important men in this room. He's the man. I get nervous when I talk to him. He's doing a great job.
Lee Zeldin, head of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, former congressman from
Nuclear,
New York.
I say, okay, you can take 2 weeks for that approval. It used to take 20 years, then they wouldn't approve it. Now I say, Lee, nuclear, I'll give you 2 weeks for an approval. A coal-fired plant, you only get a couple of days. And oil and gas will give you a week, okay? Something like that. But he's doing it so fast, and we have so many plants being built right now. It's so beautiful to see. And one of the reasons they're coming here is because they have to produce tremendous, especially the AI, they have to produce beyond believable amounts of
I'm not sure about the whole approval process. I think a coal plant should take more than 2 days to approve.
I think this was more
not
or less
a month,
my idea.
but
They didn't have
maybe
the
more
idea
than 2. Let's
because
give it
they
a little
didn't think
time.
like this was possible. I said, as you build your plant, you're going to become a utility. And you're going to build a separate plant right alongside of it. You're going to build it. You're going to build a plant that produces electricity. And you'll produce it through natural gas, coal, nuclear. We don't want to produce it through wind because we don't feel like ruining 50 miles of beautiful plains and beautiful vistas. And but we want to.
By the way, I do agree with him on that. Living in Texas, I remember we were taking a road trip and we're driving through South Texas, and then also one road trip I took through Ohio. I like Ohio. We're on our way to Cleveland to see a ball game. And both times, I mean, beautiful landscapes. I mean, gorgeous. You take the open terrain, the western frontier, Texas, right? You think of the upper Midwest, beautiful, summertime, right? And just miles and miles of just wind turbines. It's just like, it just looks awful. It just looks awful. Is it efficient? Not that efficient, really isn't. I get it. I'm all for this clean energy. I don't want to pollute the air, but in the end, it doesn't really, the return on investment isn't really what it is. But again, just the eye thing, I do agree with him on it. Just the eyesight thing, it looks terrible.
produce it. You know, interestingly, China is opening up a coal plant every single week. But now I'm finding out it might be 2 plants every single week.
Jesus.
And, you know, usually that's a good gauge. If they're using coal, I guess we're supposed to use coal.
And I doubt they have emission standards.
You're going to use
I doubt
whatever's
China is keeping to emission standards. Talk about polluting.
There's also Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, who's a tremendous guy, doctor. Okay? And he is a tremendous guy, tremendously talented doctor. When I have a medical situation for the country, for myself, I haven't used him, but I might have to. Maybe I'll do that. If it's serious enough, I think I'd probably do that. But he's a tremendously talented gentleman who happens to be a senator and one that's very respected.
You're a doctor and a senator.
Chairwoman Shelley Moore Capito,
Jesus.
and congratulations.
I feel like shit about myself right now.
Endorsed your son. Did you know that? I endorsed your son. I endorsed your son, who's running in West Virginia, and he's great. In fact, he's all Trump all the time. I think much more so than you, actually. If you want. You were his largest impediment. No, I'm only kidding. He's all Trump all the time, and he's going to win big, and so congratulate him. Okay, he's really been fantastic. So many people have told me. Thank you. And House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who's a brave man. He went through hell. Steve went through hell.
If you don't know, Steve Scalise is the congressman from Louisiana who, years back, was practicing with other GOP members of Congress to play softball because they have a softball game every year between the Democrats and Republicans. A Bernie Sanders supporter took it upon himself and to open fire on that practice field. Severely wounding, if not almost fatally wounding, Steve Scalise, who was, again, lucky to survive. So that's who he's talking about and why he said he went through hell.
And we have a lot of other people here that I won't be able to because they don't have your name down, and I'm looking, and I see people's names. I'll do a couple of you, but thanks as well to Mark Wayne Mullen, Senator. Mark Wayne, thank you. Stand up, Mark Wayne. Don't fight him. He's a serious fighter in a lot of ways, and he's a great guy, too. Thank you, Mark Wayne. Deb Fisher. Deb? Thank you, Deb.
Okay.
Pete Ricketts, who's going to do very well in the upcoming election. Thank you. Thank you, Pete. John Husted, who's really moving along in Ohio. John, good luck. You're going to do well. All endorsed people.
I wonder
John
if they all,
Curtis,
I wonder if they all get
terrifically.
McDonald's after this.
John,
Like,
thank you. Good job.
Trump loves McDonald's.
They
He
all
loves serving
say
McDonald's.
excellent. What can I tell you? Good job. And Bernie Moreno, who won a race that was not winnable. They all said it's not winnable. He won in Ohio. They said you can't win that race. It's a waste of time. You're just wasting your time, right, Bernie? Wasn't a waste of time, was it? Huh? And he won by like 5 points too. Won by a lot. Along with Representatives Kevin Kiley, Vince Fong, Jay Obernolte, Doug Lamaffer, Daryl Issa. Where's Daryl? I haven't seen you in such a long time. Look at you. How good you look, huh?
I might lose my mic here. Hold on.
It's easier. John Joyce, great guy. John, thank you. Thank you, John. Dusty Johnson, Morgan Griffith, Troy Balderson, Troy from a place called Ohio, and he played very cute at one time, but then he got, boy, I'll tell you, he's become a good politician. Where is Troy now? Where I haven't seen him used for years. I endorsed you early when he was early and younger.
Just checking out my mic here. All right, we're good.
Really good work. Claudia Tenney, New York. Claudia. Thank you, Claudia.
And he's got a lot of people to thank.
John James.
John James.
I don't know. You know, he's running for governor, but I'm not sure I'm happy about that, John. Do we have somebody good to take your seat? Because otherwise we're not letting him run for governor. We can't. You have somebody good, right? Okay. As long as you like him, they'll win. Tracy Mann. Tracy, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Michael Baumgartner. Michael. Thank you, Michael. Good job. David Rouser. Thank you.
I don't think he knows half these people.
Glenn Grothman. Hi, Glenn. Thank you very much, Glenn. Brett Guthrie. Brett. Thank you, Brett. Rudy Yackham. Thank you. Thank you, Rudy. And I want to thank you all. And there's some additional people in the room, but we have to get back to this. Is like so big. This is a big one. Under the previous administration, I could go point after point, everything they did, open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, let's go transgender. What a group of people you had over there. They must have hated our country.
Oh, dear God.
Under the previous administration, the federal government gave left-wing radicals in California dictatorial powers to control the future of the entire car industry all over the country, all over the world, actually. Because they have to build a car. They can't build 19 different cars called the same thing. And really, it was all over the world what was happening. They approved Governor Gavin Newsom's ridiculous plan to impose a 100% ban on all new gas-powered cars within a very short period of time. Think of this. You couldn't buy any other car except an electric powered car.
This is
and
true.
In California, they have blackouts and brownouts. They don't have enough electricity right now to do the job. And countrywide, you'd have to spend $4 trillion to build the firing plants, to be able to, they call them a lot of things, charging plants, firing plants. $4 trillion you'd have to spend. In the Midwest, they built 9 of them. 9 individual, it's like a pump, just like a pump, except instead of gas, electricity comes out. They built 8 of them. $9 billion they spent.
For the love of God.
8 little hoses, $9 billion. Now, I'm sure they could have done it for about, 1,000.
Kickbacks, people,
but
kickbacks.
even if they did, it's
That's all
unaffordable.
kickbacks.
They approved
Kickbacks.
Governor Gavin's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. By the way, if I didn't bring the military in,
there we go.
Los Angeles would be burning down right now. It'd be burning just like his damn houses burned down because he didn't have the water that he should have had. He had so much water. They have so much water. We had to send in the military to free up the water. And we did that right after the fires. We told them to do it in the first term. But just like that ridiculous plan, this is a plan to ban, think of it, a plan to ban 100, and they call it the 100% ban on all new gas-powered cars and abolish 75% of the gas-powered trucks. 75%. The trucking industry saw me. They said, sir, it doesn't work. Number one, the trucks are so heavy. They're 2.5 times heavier than a diesel-powered truck. So one of the big truckers owns 28,000 trucks, big company, tremendous company. He said, I go out of business immediately. I'm not going to play games. He said, did you explain these things to the government officials? Like the truck weighs 2.5 times more than a regular truck, a gasoline-powered diesel. And he said, based on that, we have to rebuild every bridge in the United States of America because it wasn't designed to hold cars and trucks that heavy because the batteries are very heavy. They're, probably lead. But they have a lot of things in those batteries that weigh a lot. But it's 2.5 times. It's a simple number, 2.5 times. And
that's a lot of weight.
If you want to do this,
Bridges aren't doing too well in the United States right now.
Trillions and trillions of dollars on rebuilding every bridge in the United States, and I guess throughout the world, because they do follow us. And the big rig buses and even cement trucks, they want to abolish certain categories of truck, but they want to go 75%.
That's a lot.
Of all of these trucks have to be abolished almost immediately. The time is just crazy. And they don't go far. Another little problem. With a tank of diesel, you can go from New York to Los Angeles if you want to go to Los Angeles right now. but New York to Los Angeles, and you can go back a little bit. With the electric truck, you'll stop approximately 6 times.
Ugh.
Enjoy your stop. And the truckers saw me, and I said, "Did you just explain this? Because this is like, you know, if you explain
they explained it, and they didn't care."
Reasonable for that. He said, "We explained it. They didn't care. They said we're going all electric." They can't be stupid, because anybody that can cheat on elections like them is not a stupid person. But they must hate our country. But I said to this big trucker, he said, "Sir, I've been buying trucks my whole damn life." He's a rough guy, smart guy. He said, "I got thousands of them. I've been buying them for 50 years. And every single year they got better. They got more efficient. They got bigger. They got
they have.
stronger.
They've gotten way more efficient.
I build apartments in my trucks now for the drivers." I said, "What's an apartment?" "That's on the cab. They put this in." "And sir, I know you like luxury, but you wouldn't mind living in one of these." I said, "Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't." I mean, it doesn't sound too appealing, but I said, "So what's the problem?" He said, "So I noticed one thing.
Some of those
For
cabs
50
are
years, every
nice.
single year, one thing happened. They got better. They got stronger. They got more efficient. They got faster. They could carry any load. If we went to this standard, we'd go back beyond 50 years. They wouldn't go as far as a truck from 50 years ago. It would be too heavy and have all the other problems." He said, "We'd be going backwards. We'd be taking a trucking industry, would be starting all over. But actually, it would be worse, because it was better 50 years ago than." So I said, "What are you going to do if I don't win this election?" This was before the election. He said, "You don't win the election, I'm going to close up my business, because I'm not going to lose my..." He said, "I'm not going to lose my ass. I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be a catastrophe. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. They're making you buy stuff that doesn't work."
And that's crazy. I mean, if the story he's telling is accurate and true, that you have business owners that say, "I'm just going to stop, because it's better just not to have a business than to lose the kind of money I'm going to lose." That's crazy. I mean, there's got to be a balance somewhere between regulation and profit, right? I mean, you can't regulate profit out of everything. If you make things just unprofitable, I mean, that's how you get rid of something, right? You tax it. You make it unprofitable. You want to get rid of smoking, tax the hell out of it. You want to tax the hell out of tobacco. You want to get rid of whatever it might be. You tax it. You make it impossible. You make it impossible for just ordinary people to even function to do it, to buy it or purchase it, right? Same thing here. You don't want these trucks on the road and make it unprofitable. Close them down. And then what do? We can't get stuff. It's just crazy.
It's no good. It doesn't work. And I'm all for electric. If you want to buy electric, you can buy electric. Cars are great. If you buy the right ones, cars are great. And you should be given the option: buy the electric car, buy a gasoline-powered car, buy a hybrid. Probably not hydrogen, because hydrogen has a tendency that when it blows up, you're gonzo. It's over. They find you 75 yards down the road, you know. Where is he? Well, I think that's him, but I'm not sure. So, you know, they said, "We think we can solve the problem." I said, "That's not good enough." When they think, "No, it sounds like it's quite severe." If it doesn't work, Steve, it'll work most of the time, but if it doesn't, it's over. It'll make your accident look like peanuts compared. You wouldn't be around, I'll tell you, because it's pretty bad. But some people like it. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But I would say it's off to a bad start.
Hydrogen.
But because of the size of California's population and the fact that 17 other states follow California, that's the problem. 17 other states follow California.
I wonder does he list all 17?
I've ever seen for a lot of things. This is just cars, and trucks and they have a lot of them for other things. But it's called the California Car Standards, and this horrible scheme would effectively abolish the internal combustion engine, which most people prefer. Like so far, I'd say about 90%. In fact, General Motors announced yesterday they're going to spend about $6 billion.
I don't know where he gets the 90%, but
tariffs,
okay.
And maybe because of my election on November 5th, but because of tariffs, I think more than anything, they're all coming back. They're coming back from other countries that took them 25, 30 years ago. They're all coming back. We have now almost $15 trillion. They had almost nothing last year, and the year before they very, very little. Nobody wanted to be back here. Nobody wanted to come to our country anymore because we were like stupid people. We looked like stupid people. We were laughed at all over the world. Now we're not laughed at anymore, I can tell you that. But they wanted to shatter our domestic supply chains and literally grind civilization to a halt. We would have gone so far back. It's hard to believe, actually. Hard to believe when you don't have enough electricity to give a person a little air conditioning in the summer, and now they want you to take electricity and fire
when
up
I
all these
worked
cars.
out in California, there were a lot of
but
brownouts.
we're not going to let that happen.
I guess that's what they call them, brownouts, blackouts,
Meanwhile,
brownouts.
all of the auto jobs would be
It was
shipped
crazy.
to China because they're very
And it gets
strong
hot.
on electric, and it lives off an estimated 200,000 American auto workers would be destroyed. It's one of the reasons I did so well with the United Auto Workers. And now I'm really doing well with them. I did phenomenally with them. No Republican ever got any numbers like I got. In the Teamsters, too. Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters. These guys, they like Trump because I produce jobs. They know that. Everybody knew that. The auto workers knew better than anybody how good the tariffs were. And the head of the auto breakers, I don't know him at all, but he didn't like me at all. Now he's going around saying, this guy's unbelievable. He was very nice to me the last few months. During the campaign, no, but if
during the campaign, he didn't like
him. I've proven it. I've done what I said I was going to do, and we've brought back tremendous numbers of jobs. And you're having auto plants built all over the country, all over.
No, that's got to be the East room that they're in. I think it's the East room.
They're leaving from Canada. They're leaving from other parts of the world. If they want a Mercedes-Benz, you're going to have it made here. It's okay to have a Mercedes, but they're going to make it here. Otherwise, they're going to pay a very big tariff. They already are. That's one of the reasons we have $88 billion. It's a lot of money. But that's peanuts compared to what we're going to be making in another few months. They haven't even kicked in yet.
The crowd's
But we're
like,
not
he's just going to go on, isn't he?
Let any of these
the crowd's
bad
like,
things
thought we were here
happen.
for lunch.
Stupid projections that I've been reading about for the last 6 months. I think these people are either corrupt or really dumb. And they're supposed to be economists. In the campaign, I promised to end this disaster, and today our Republican majorities in Congress have delivered. And I don't know, I can't imagine. It's so obvious. It's so good. Did we get any Democrat votes? Did we get one? Two? Who? 35. I think that's great.
35 in the
I
House.
think that's great. You got 35 Democrats. I think that's great. That, as far as I'm concerned, one in the Senate. On something that's so good. But who is the one? Well?
No, Michigan Senator.
I shouldn't have asked.
Of course it's the Michigan Senator.
I congratulate her. I don't care. I think it's,
Detroit.
I mean,
great. Yeah. I mean, it's going to benefit the auto industry. Yes, the Michigan Senator
that question,
is going to vote for it.
But in a few moments, I'll sign 3 pieces of legislation that will kill, totally kill. You can't do anything about it. They can't take us to court. They can't do any of the things they can do with the executive orders. And it's permanent. I'll sign 3 pieces of legislation that will kill the California mandates forever, and they're never coming back. Now, the auto companies are the most happy because now they're going to be designing and building one auto. It will be much cheaper. It's a much less expensive. They were showing me, one of the most respected people was showing me that to save a little, like a half a glass of fuel, cost them thousands of dollars with new computers and stop it. The engine has to stop and then turn on. And blah,
I hate that. I had a rental car where the engine, when I came to a red light, it would shut off.
It's and that's to save a little bit of this much fuel.
I absolutely hated that.
Chris Wright can produce with one extra little oil well someplace, right? A small one, a very small one. But think of it. Your cars are going to cost you $3,000, $4,000 less, and you're going to have what you want. And again, you can get any car you want. You can get electric. A lot of people love the electric. They like Tesla. So do I, in all fairness. I like Tesla. And I like others too. But I also like combustion engines. And, there are reasons for
I thought maybe he'd say Elon.
a lot of things. When I was in Iowa, we had an unbelievable victory, if you remember. Remember? That was nice. You won by like so much, nobody even talked about it.
Dude, he's been freestyling for half an hour.
It was a great victory, but it was unbelievably cold that night. And I was going to watch my victory in the area where I was going to make a speech, and the whole place was littered with cars. I said, what happened? They were electric cars, and they don't work in cold. I said, I didn't know that. And they don't work in extreme heat either. Other than that, they're wonderful. But if you're in a cold climate, how do you do that? But they're electric cars, and I noticed that, and then I didn't pay much attention because we won by about 65 points. So I was more interested in that. But I do remember that scene. I said, what the hell is going on over here? This historic action will also help us reduce inflation and bring down the price of automobiles and electricity very, very substantially. We're building massive electricity right now. It's already started because of that guy right there, Lee Zeldin. By far the most important man in the room, Mr. Speaker.
Think of the electrical system in the United States. The electrical grid is something that needs overhaul. It just needs overhaul.
He blows you guys away, John.
So I don't care, Democrat, Republican. You want to spend money on that? That's a good thing.
He's a great politician. He almost won for governor in New York, which is just missed by a few points. And that was another race that was not winnable, but you almost got it. But I think what you're doing now is even bigger if you want to know the truth. I think it's actually more important if you can believe that. Under the previous regime, car prices skyrocketed as a direct result of the mandates. These mandates, this nonsense that you had to do, and they had so many other rules and regulations that the car companies who are here today appreciate that. And Susie Wiles is here today. Stand up, Susie. Most incredible woman. Most powerful woman in the world, they say. She's the most powerful. She was rated the most powerful woman in the world. Susie Wiles. One phone call and a nation is destroyed. She could destroy 5 nations with 5 calls, and she's doing a great job. More importantly, right? Doing a great job. Nobody like.
This is chief of staff.
Energy prices would likewise soar as a radical left forced more electric vehicles onto the grid while blocking approvals for new power plants. They want to block the approvals. They want you to have a car with electric, but they block the production of the juice that runs the cars, and all of them, all forms of cars. It's just the craziest thing. We're in a different sphere now. We're in a whole different planet right now. The result would be rolling.
If you see me stirring, it's
blackouts and a collapse.
Like I said, my dog isn't here with me.
Would have a total collapse.
He doesn't care that I'm streaming. He just wants attention.
Think of it, they're forcing you to do something, and they want you to do boats also. I assume boats are being covered by this, and boats, they want you to go all electric, and the batteries are so heavy.
All electric boats?
Practically doesn't float. I used to have a lot of fun talking about that one on the tours. We'd talk about it. And
I'm not sure how I feel about
that.
that.
The boat sank because we went to North Carolina, South Carolina. We visited boat factories. Unbelievable guys. And they said, sir, we have one problem. They're forcing us to go electric for the boat. I said, how's it going to work? The boat will not float, sir. So heavy. And it won't go fast, and lots of other. And I did ask him a question because I have a lot of background. My uncle was a big shot at MIT, the smartest guy. He never had a smarter guy. And I guess I have a little of that. My first question was, what would happen if the boat sank? Do you get electrocuted? Remember I said that?
That's a good question.
I used to be decimated by these people back here.
I had the same.
I used to be decimated.
Electricity and water?
What kind of a crazy question is that? So I'm actually serious. What happens if you're an electric boat and the boat is going down? You're in trouble, Susie. And I used to say, remember, I'd get decimated. The audience loved it, but the press would laugh at it. I said, so if I have my choice of going down or jumping 5 or 6 yards away from the boat, but there's a shark there, what do I do? You know what I said? I'd rather be electrocuted. I said, I'll take electrocution every single day. But actually, he said, nobody's ever asked me that question, sir. He makes boats. Nobody ever asked me that question. This is really an unusual question. He said, and honestly, I don't have the answer. He wasn't able to. I said, don't worry about it. If I win, you won't have to worry about it. But today we're saving California, and we're saving our entire country from a disaster. Your cars are going to be thousands of dollars less money. And even the ones that, if you buy electric, we're not going to make you do certain things that are just a waste of money and just time-consuming waste of money. They make you do things that are no good for anybody, make the car worse, and make it much more expensive. Over the past 5 months, our administration and Republicans in Congress have fought for the American auto worker and for Teamsters and for, by the way, right to work.
I'm not sure exactly where he's getting the thousands of dollars cheaper. I mean,
workers. We fought for workers
I guess
like
if
no one has ever fought before.
electric vehicles do cost a little bit more, and I guess certain standards, certain things are going. I can see that, but I mean, if you don't, if you're in a state that doesn't care about the standards, I don't think your price of your car is going to be any less. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it's the back end of.
We probably will save TikTok actually. But on my first day in office, I ended the Green New Scam and abolished the EV mandate at the federal level. We abolished it, which is basically that everybody will be driving an electric car within a very short period of time. Now I know why Elon doesn't like me so much, which he does, actually. He does. And he never had a problem. You know, it's very interesting. This is not something new.
Oh, boy, Elon.
This has been there from day one, Speaker, right? We're going to abolish the EV mandate. And Elon still endorsed me because, honestly, he never, ever spoke to me about that. And I used to say, I'm amazed that he's endorsing me because that can't be good for him. I'm abolishing the EV mandate. And I once asked him about it. You never talked to me about that. He said, well, as long as it's happening to everybody, I'll be able to compete. It was a very interesting answer. I thought it was a very honest answer, to be honest with you. And I talked about it, that incredible, you know, you would have thought he would have been, from day one, you got to make sure you don't do the EV mandate, the abolishing, and never did. Very honest in that sense. And he did say to me, I actually asked him because it was like really strange how I'm with him. He's very, you know, a friend of mine, and he makes electric cars, and we're saying you're not going to be able to make electric cars, or you're not going to be forced to make all of those cars. You can make them, but it'll be by the market, judged by the market. And that's what he said. He said, as long as I'm on the same plane as everybody else, we're going to do good. We make a better product. I said, that's very cool. It's very cool. That was my answer. After that, he got a little bit strange, but I don't know why, over much smaller things than that. As part of the one big, beautiful bill, we'll also further slash the funding for the Green New Scam. As you know, it's the greatest scam in history, saving American taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. The windmills are killing our country, by the way. The fields are littered with them, junk. They're littered with them. And they get older, and they get rusty, and they get bad.
I told you, Texas, Ohio, they looked awful. They looked terrible.
It's the greatest scam in
history. Terrible,
it's the most
terrible.
expensive energy you can buy. They're ugly. A friend of mine comes from Minnesota. He's been in New York. He hit it big. He's a very successful guy, actually. And he wanted to go back, see his mother who's not well, and he went back to Minnesota. Hasn't been back there in 20 years. And he said, it's unbelievable what happened. He said, I'm driving down a highway and up a certain road, and the most beautiful fields. I remember them so well. And I was so looking forward to seeing them again. And I looked at them, and they had windmills all over them, these horrible, horrible structures. He's a very smart guy, this guy. He said, these ugly, horrible things. And he said, it was so bad, I actually drove back to see it because I couldn't believe it. Before I even got to my mother, I drove back. I said, how much do you like your mother? But no, it hurt him to see it. He said, I looked at this field that was one of the most beautiful places in my own mind and imagination that I've ever seen. And I said, it's littered with this garbage. It looked like a junkyard, he said. And some, you know, then you get different manufacturers, and they don't look alike. And they're not painted alike, different colors. You have, even if they're white, one's a beigey white, one's a darker white, one's a lighter white. And then they start to rust after 4 or 5 years. and then they start to wear out, and nobody takes them because you're not allowed to bury the propellers, the props, right? You can't bury the props for some reason. I don't know why, but they say that you can't bury a certain type of fiber, and if it goes in the ground, we're all going to die.
Yeah, it's
what bullshit this is, okay? They can't bury. So what they do is they leave them up.
Just bullshit.
If you go to Palm Springs, California, take a look. You go into this beautiful community. Before you go, it's like you're riding through a junkyard. Windmills all over the place. Tall ones, short ones, dead ones. They're all dead. Some are hanging over by a thread. They never take them down. They just leave them there, and they start to rust. It's one of the greatest scams, and it's also the most expensive energy. And the environmentalists say, oh, we love wind. It sounds so good, but it's a horrible thing. Environmentally, it's a horrible thing. I say that to you. It's wind, and we are going to have virtually one mandate we have. We're going to natural gas, nuclear. Nuclear, we just had a big signing with nuclear, making it easier, safer, and better. It's really,
I wouldn't call nuclear
more
safer.
than any other form of energy that's come about. It's been amazing what's been done. It's very safe.
You just need one mistake.
And very inexpensive. But we're not going to let windmills get built because we're not going to destroy our country any further than it's already been destroyed. You go and look at these beautiful plains and valleys, and they're loaded up with this garbage.
All right, so he's got windmills on his mind. He's been doing about 15 minutes on windmills.
Starts when the rust comes. 4.5
I think he's kind of tilting
years
at the windmill right now, but
and it's very expensive to paint them, so they don't paint them, and they're horrible. What's happened is horrible. So we're not going to approve windmills unless something happens that's an emergency. I guess it could happen, but we're not doing any of them. I hope the Senate will soon pass a bill the House can quickly approve and get to my desk by the 4th of July. We'll have this done. And to further defend our auto workers, I imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles. Investment in American auto manufacturing is surging because of it. They have Mercedes all over.
I don't think he can get the one big beautiful bill by July 4th. I think it's going to be a little bit longer than that.
And because of that, and this could have been done long
I think there's just too much.
This
too
could
much
have been done by any one of the
that needs to be changed in it
with China. The reason
in
you
the
don't
Senate.
have Chinese cars here is because I imposed it my last term. I actually asked the question.
He's talking about Chinese cars right now. By the way, I get to see Chinese cars down here all the time. You don't want Chinese cars in the United States. They're going to be cheaper. They look great. they really do. But in the SUVs, I actually was going out looking at them because thinking to myself, oh, maybe I'll get a car and all that, right? There's like 4 or 5 different companies down here, and they sell out. Boom. I mean, you can't keep them in stock down here. They just sell. They're great. They sell so fast. The thing is, and they're so popular that right now that if you get in, they'll tell you, if you get into an accident, they can't even make the parts, the replacement parts fast enough. If you like get a fender bender, you need to replace your bumper. It's really, you'll be waiting 6 months to get a piece because they can't keep up with the demand. They've got electric, they got gas, they got hybrid. And again, I sat in a few of these, and they look great, they feel great. Granted, I made the joke with my wife, it's a Chinese car. I mean, someone's listening to us, right? But you don't want the Chinese cars if they catch on in the United States and people are like, yeah, they're really affordable and they do the trick. I don't think you would have to tariff the hell out of them as they come in because they would outsell. They would begin to outsell, I think, American cars.
I said, do we have any Chinese cars here? No. Why? Because you imposed a 25 or 27.5% tariff on Chinese cars. So they're not coming here, but they are going to Europe all over the place. But I love China. We just made a deal, and I respect President Xi a lot. And we made a deal that's good for both countries. The deal we made with China, good for both countries. Going to be a lot of money made.
I can't wait till they release that so I can actually read it.
Open up China, which is the
you're getting kind of bullet points here and there.
But working with President Xi, we had a long talk about it, and that's going to be good for China. It's going to be good for us. But we're going to be opening up China. That's bigger than what we signed. And I think had we not signed it, that wouldn't be happening. It's going to happen. It's going to happen fairly soon. But to further defend our auto workers, I imposed this 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles and investment in American manufacturing and auto manufacturing. All manufacturing is surging.
All right, man. He is 43 minutes into what is supposed to be just a bill signing.
In the not too distant future. The higher you go, the more likely it is they build a plant here.
I mean,
Ford has just announced that it's going to invest $500 million in some of the things involved in what we just did. General Motors.
At some point in time, he's going to take questions.
They just announced that yesterday. Stellantis announced that it's going to reopen its Belvidere assembly plant. That's good. I know the plant very well. Had a lot of problems. They're going to spend $5 billion. And Hyundai announced that it will invest $21 billion in America. They wouldn't have invested 10 cents if we didn't have tariffs, including for manufacturing American steel, which is doing great. American steel is doing great now because of what we did. You wouldn't have, if I didn't put tariffs on steel, they were dumping steel. China and a lot of other countries were dumping steel in our country. Garbage steel, dirty steel, bad steel, not structurally sound steel. Real garbage, but it was still
all right,
there.
So he gets to the bill signing there.
And if I didn't
he has
put
other
tariffs,
people
I
come
put
up and
25
talk. Let's get past
50%
this.
tariffs.
Let's get past. Let's get to the press. Let's see if he answers questions. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's get some. Let's see if he.
Go ahead, please.
Here we go. All right.
All right, Brian, yeah, please.
I have some very close friends who run some of the largest auto dealerships in Southern California. Stack Automotive Group.
Good.
Their message to you, they're 100% behind you right now. They know they're going through some soft sales period.
It's true.
They're in it for the long haul. What's your message to thousands of auto dealerships across this country that are kind of navigating through this tariff?
Yeah, they're going to do better than ever before. They're going to sell cars in America at levels
That wasn't really
they've
a
never
question. That was kind
even
of
thought of before.
That had to be set up.
And they're going to make more money than they ever made before. It's going to be great. They're going to be selling a better car too. It's going to be a better product.
Okay.
I know. I know that they have been behind me. Right. They knew it was right. They've been asking for this for 25, 30 years. In all fairness, no, they're very happy. I told you the Auto Workers Union, we got tremendous votes, but they like me today even better than they did on Election Day on November 5th because they see the results now. They're all happening. And yeah, and they have plants moving in, Brian. A lot of plants are moving in. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah.
Was Governor Gavin Newsom trying to kill the auto industry then?
Oh, he was killing the auto industry. I don't think he knew it. I think he's a guy who
I was talking about
just
Newsom.
got a faulty thought process. You look at that train. The train is the most. I've
Oh,
I've
dear
seen
God, we're going to hear about the
people,
train again.
Stupid people with cost overruns for years.
Yes,
I've
we know
watched
the train costs
where
too
something
much.
Would cost
The train
twice
is a
as much
stupid
or three
thing.
times.
Let it go.
But this thing is costing.
Let it go.
20 times more.
I'm tired of
It's
hearing about the
most
train.
Incredible disaster I've ever seen. That's one. The cars are just as bad. Everything's bad. And now you have this situation. So his own sheriff, who's a good man, by the way, said 2 days ago or 3 days ago that we could not have done this without the military. They were going to take over.
The sheriff did say
this
that.
whole. They couldn't have done it.
The sheriff did
now,
say
today
that.
they
of
got
California.
him to change his tune. He said,
And
"Oh, I think we could have handled it." You know, it's so sad. He was so honest. I was using his quote all over the place, and they got him to change. But he knows. Los Angeles would be right now burning to the ground, just like the houses burned to the ground. It's so sad what's going on in Los Angeles. Think of it. They had a fire that should have never had because they should have listened to me in the water. Eventually, we broke in and we had the water come down from the Pacific Northwest. I could show you pictures now with the half pipes, the big half pipes coming all the way down California. Water, so much water. They don't have any droughts. They don't have any. They have so much water. They sent it all out to the Pacific Ocean for 20 years. So ridiculous.
I mean, he's constantly on Gavin Newsom because he knows
they got
Gavin
him
Newsom
to
is
take it
probably
now.
going to be the candidate.
What they do and what they're doing, this is.
He doesn't need
this
to
is a
win
big
Los
problem.
Angeles. He knows he's
And
never
what
going to
they
win
really
Los
wanna do
Angeles,
is
so he can
criminals
just keep
because
hammering
they're trying to
Los
protect
Angeles.
criminals.
Los Angeles is never going to
Sanctuary
vote
cities
for
are a disaster
a Republican.
in this country. And most of the voters don't want him. Politicians like him for whatever reason, but I think the politicians are wrong. That's why we won in such a convincing fashion. We won all 7 swing states. We won by millions of votes. We won 2,750 districts as opposed to 505. That's why when you look at the map, it's almost all red. It's got 2 little blue stripes on each side of it. It's almost all red.
It's true.
But
He's
no,
not lying.
You have to,
it's true.
I always got along with Gavin. I like Gavin. I've liked him. Always.
I don't think he likes
He said I never called him. You know, they asked him a question.
He's always bashing him.
Fox, I guess. I never spoke to him. He doesn't remember the call. He doesn't remember. I never spoke. And then I produced a phone call.
16 minutes.
I had it. It took me about 2 minutes. I said, well, here's the call. It lasted 16 minutes and 4 seconds. And it was at 12:30 in the evening. I actually made a call, didn't pick up. I called him a second time, and he picked up. And I told him, I said, you have to get your ass in gear because you're going to have a problem there. And he would have. If we didn't bring the military in, you would have right now something. And I went through it because I follow the rules 100%. And I watched in Minnesota where you have the man who ran for vice president of the United States. Fortunately, he was a disaster. But he wouldn't call in the National Guard. And I eventually called in the National Guard, but it was seven days late. I said, I'll never do that again. I'm never going to, if I see problems brewing, if they're not going to do the problem, I'm not going to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's not going to let 2020 happen again.
Minneapolis burned down.
Just,
if you remember,
he's just not going to let it
CNN
happen.
Anchor, he was standing there saying, yes, this is a peaceful rally. And behind him, the entire city was on fire. Looked like World War II. And I appreciate the question. Please. Thank you.
The India plane crash, which we just saw that video. No Americans were killed on that plane.
Plane crash was terrible. I've already told them anything we can do. It's a big country, a strong country. They'll handle it, I'm sure. But I let them know that anything we can do, we'll be over there immediately. But it was a horrific crash. It looks like most are gone. They actually maybe have a couple survivors, which is just
There's one survivor. I don't know how the hell they survived this plane crash.
Nobody knows. Nobody
242 people dead. One survivor.
I gave him a couple of pointers. I said, maybe you'll look at this or that. You know, we saw the plane. It looked like it was flying pretty well. It didn't look like there was an explosion.
No, there wasn't.
It just looked like the engines maybe lost power. But boy,
Thing just
that
goes
was a terrible
glide,
crash. It's
no
one of the
smoke,
worst in
no nothing?
aviation history. Yeah, second.
Just boom.
How confident are you, sir, that conflict with Iran can be avoided?
Well, I'd love to avoid the conflict.
All right, so we just broke the news, or we just read the breaking news a few minutes ago, or half an hour ago. Israel has attacked Iran. Now, this is a few hours before that, right? He knows Israel is going to attack Iran. He's standing up there because Israel is not going to attack Iran without notifying the President of the United States first. It's just the way that works. It's the way it works. So you like to avoid conflict. Well, we're going to have some conflict. But let's see what he says here.
Iran's going to have to negotiate a little bit tougher.
No.
They're going to have to give us some things that they're not willing to give us right now.
There's going to be missiles launched at Tel
I'm the
Aviv.
last person. I've kept us out of wars. We defeated ISIS completely, 100%. And I haven't had it's peace through strength. I believe in peace through strength. We have the greatest military in the world.
He's going to mention
I rebuilt
Afghanistan.
the military, as you remember, for 4 years. I rebuilt the military.
He's going to mention it, I swear.
And then we gave a chunk of it away, but it was still peanuts. It was a lot, but it was peanuts compared to what we rebuilt. Gave it to Afghanistan.
I told you.
One of the
There
most embarrassing moments in the history of our country.
He's got like his greatest hits, you know.
Withdrawal, the way they withdrew was very embarrassing. But we rebuilt the military. We have the greatest, strongest military. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in 4 weeks. It was told to be 5 years. It was going to take 5 years, anywhere from 4 to 5 years. We did it in 4 weeks. With, by the way, headed by the general who's now the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's why he's there. He said it would take 4 weeks, and he did it in 4 weeks. He did actually a little bit faster. So we have a great country, and we're going to keep it that way. And when it comes to Los Angeles or other cities, if we see other cities are gearing up, And these people are agitators. They're paid. They're professionals. They're insurrectionists. They're troublemakers. They're all of those things.
That's kind of funny because another newscast had gone on Craigslist of all places, and I've never been on Craigslist. I've seen it, right? But there's advertisements like, "Hey, you want to make $1,000? You want to come down here?" It's basically advertising to pay you to be an agitator, a rioter, or throw rocks, or basically do whatever, right? Like light a car on fire. So yeah, there is that happening, and they've arrested people who are facilitating handing out things that look very professional. Like, somebody shows up with a truck and they get a box full of these masks or gas masks or whatever, right? And they start handing them out to their people, right? That's a coordinated effort, right? That's even the Mayor Bass, mayor of Los Angeles, came out and said, we have a very sophisticated response system in the city. And she was referring to people who would rally against ICE and things like that to protest, to sort of flash mob protest. It's not part of the Los Angeles government, as far as I know, the city government. But they are aware of that type of rapid response sort of system that is sort of embedded in the social fabric of Los Angeles. So there is some organization to all this, and there is some, again, where there's organization, there's money.
But I believe they're paid, and we're going to find out through Pam Bondi and her great staff, her great people at Justice, who they are. And Mike, I think you're doing some investigations in that in Congress, but we're going to find out who they are, because they're really...
just pray that it's not some foreign government or foreign entity, because...
one thing, so they took the bricks away from people. They
that'll be the worst of the worst.
Of bricks. Now, why do you have bricks? You have bricks because you throw bricks. They're very potent. If they hit you, they kill you. And they took them away. The military took them away. They saw him. What the hell is this? The guy could hardly carry me. Many bricks. He's a strong guy. Couldn't carry him. And they saw that, and they took him away. Then they found others with bricks. But they're ingenious. They also brought hammers along, very heavy hammers.
Earlier we saw this video.
Pounding the curb and pounding the sidewalk.
There's a rock.
There's a rock. Like a military operation. This guy's pounding strong, boom, big shots. And it was breaking up granite, the granite curbs. And the granite was breaking up, and the concrete was breaking up. And there was lines of people standing there, and they're handing him. And then he stopped handing them. They just went down and picked him up. It was so professional. I said, that's a professional organization. This is not like people at random.
Yeah, random people
just breaking up because they couldn't use the bricks. So who would think of this?
It's not organic, right?
Did a lot of damage. A lot of curbs are broken. A lot of sidewalks broken. But I never saw that before. That's one I haven't seen. I thought I saw it all. And they have it on tape. And with that, people get killed. They go to the bridges and they drop the concrete off the top of the bridge with a car coming along at 70 miles an hour, and the person dies. And we had a lot of car problems. You saw that. They were all over the road. They were littered all over the road, where the cars got stopped by concrete going through the front windshield. Now, these are bad people. If we didn't go, Los Angeles right now would be on fire. It would be a disaster. And we stopped it. And last night was very good. Nobody showed up. You know why they didn't show up?
Because the military. We were there. The military's there.
If it was just the police, because the police are great. I know those police, they're great, but they're told not to do anything. They're not allowed to act. Thank you. Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen.
Yep.
Look, it's very simple.
I don't want to say
Not
imminent.
complicated.
He knows. He knows in the moment it's imminent. It's hours away because it just happened. Israel has struck Iran.
We'll help them be successful. We'll trade with them. We'll do whatever is necessary. I stopped a war between India and Pakistan. And I stopped it with trade. I don't think I've ever seen a story written about it, but it was pretty cool. They were getting ready. Pakistan was their turn to hit, and eventually they're going to go nuclear. And I stopped it. I called each. I respect each leader greatly. I know them. And I spoke to them, and I talked about trade. I said, but you're not trading with us if you're going to go to war, if you're going to start throwing nuclear weapons around. And I said it to both of them, and they were both unbelievable, actually. They understood it exactly. They stopped. I stopped that war with phone calls and trade. And India's here right now negotiating a trade deal, and Pakistan's coming, I think, next week. And I'm very proud of that. Nobody died. Nobody, the nuclear weapons, they each have very severe, very substantial numbers of nuclear weapons. And I think we should get some credit for that. You know, the whole Republican Party should, because that's their mindset. Please. Yes, ma'am. What? Look, I've always been in favor of students coming in from other countries.
All right, so the
That
question,
includes
if you
China.
didn't hear that, a few days ago, 2 Chinese researchers were arrested bringing in illegal substances that could have been considered biohazard, biological. They could have been termed, they could have classified them as a biological weapon. And so the idea that these 2 Chinese nationals were coming in and they do research, I think for University of Michigan. I could be wrong if it's the University of Michigan or Wisconsin, somewhere in the Midwest, I believe. Anyways, so the question is about, are you concerned? And, you know, he's already talked about this many, many times. He wants international students to come here, but he also wants them to stay here. He wants them to come here properly, get their education, but also stay here and work for American companies and build American wealth. Instead of, you know, what he doesn't like is a system where it's too tough or too difficult or too stringent for them to get their visa to stay after we've educated them. They go back to their home country and they benefit that economy. He'd rather them stay here in this economy. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I worked for Apple and most of our engineers were not from the United States of America. They just weren't. Why? Because better engineering students from other countries, you can argue all that you want, but it's just the way it was. So I don't think he even mentions, he's probably mentioned Apple here.
And we have 500,000 Chinese students coming in. I've always been in favor of it. Does it mean that you have to watch people? Yeah, you have to watch students, but you have to watch other people also. I've always been strongly in favor of it. I think it's a great thing. It's also, it's good for our schools. It's good for, I think it's good for our country. I'm also in favor of having them stay. I've been in favor of letting them stay. If you get educated for 4 years, you're willing to get educated for 4 years. I like people being able to stay. You know, they have some great students. You have some, these are Republicans clapping. You know, because a lot of Republicans don't like that idea. I happen to like it. I'm a real Republican, believe it or not. But I like the idea. They go 4 years. To me, that's almost like, you know, just buying your way in a very legitimate way. And, you know, you have stories where Apple wants to hire somebody and they can't hire him because he can't stay.
I had a lot of problems when hiring for Apple because of the H-1B1 visas.
They made him a big offer.
Just a lot of
everything's done, but he has no idea whether or not he's going to be able to stay.
Talented people couldn't
and
hire
I'm
him.
all for making sure that people like that can go to work for all of our great companies. And you know what they do? They go back to their country, and there are stories that are all over the place. They go back to their company and they start a company just like they were going to start here. They end up starting it in China or India or someplace else, and now they're among the richest people in the world. They've got thousands and thousands of employees that make it great. This is happening all the time because they're not allowed to stay. And I think we'll probably end up doing something about that, right? I think. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You in the blue, please. Light blue.
You in the blue.
How close are you to setback between Ukraine and Russia? We see a very bad escalation. Are you going to be leaving the next?
Oh, he's given up on Ukraine,
I'm very
Russia.
close to the situation.
He's close to it, but he's just given up on this. He's just.
But I'm disappointed in Ukraine also because I think deals could have been made, and you know we're losing 5,000-6,000 people a week.
Yeah, he's done with that situation.
Also,
He's just,
people living
he's
in
tried
towns because they're getting hit by missiles again.
Yeah, it's a terrible
How'd you like to live in a
situation. I
building
mean, but
and you
he's.
think a missile has a good chance of hitting your building during the evening. It's horrible. Must be horrible to live like that. But I mean, we'll get it. But it's.
I don't think he will. I think this is the one where he's going to have to ride it out.
We did
and
great
just,
with India and Pakistan.
I think Putin. I think the
end. Israel.
Putin's going to go, right? I think once he goes, then maybe this war will end.
Forget, you know, they like to forget.
I don't think that's going to happen
It's
either.
a horrible thing, but you know, none of these things would have happened if I were president. If I were president, none of it would have happened. You wouldn't have the Israel problem. Iran was broke. They had no money.
If you didn't break up with me.
Biden immediately let them get rich. The $300 billion they have right now. But they had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah. They had no money for anything. It was perfect. We wouldn't have had inflation that was caused by oil, Chris. The oil price went through the roof. It was also caused by their spending, but it was caused more by oil than anything else. The oil went so high, got close to $100 a barrel, and that also kept the war going with Putin, because at $100 a barrel,
it's a lot of money.
Big
for
money-making
Putin.
experience. But now it's down to where it's not so good for them anymore. No, it's very important to get that solved. That's a bloodbath. That's a terrible bloodbath that's going on. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Following up your question, answer on India and Pakistan for stopping the war between them. India says that they cannot talk to Pakistan unless Pakistan takes actions against terrorists.
We're going to get those two getting together, you know. I told them, India and Pakistan, they've had a long time rivalry over Kashmir. And I said, I can solve anything. I'll be your arbitrator. I will be your arbitrator. I can solve anything. And I started the first question, how long has it been going on? They said
2,000
years. I said, oh, that's a problem.
Kashmir's been going on for 2,000 years.
When I heard 2,000 years, I said, maybe I'll have John Hess solve that problem.
Mr. President, will you punish Israel for striking Iran?
Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. I have two. First, on immigration. What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years.
Yeah, they're migrant
they're
laborers.
Not citizens,
He's not.
But they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
And my other question about the Middle
Brilliant.
East, as the Israelis apparently gear up for some kind of an attack, a possible attack on Iran, are you trying to talk Netanyahu out of doing that, or are you so against Iran having a nuclear weapon that you're okay, he does his thing because it is not an American war?
Yeah, it's a very fair question. Look, I want to have an agreement with Iran. We're fairly close to an agreement. We are fairly close to a pretty good agreement. It's got to be better than pretty good, though, but it's got to be, I'd much prefer an agreement. As long as I think there is an agreement, I don't want them going in because I think that would blow it. Might help it, actually, but it also could blow it. But we've had very good discussions with Iran. Whether or not we get there, I can't tell you, but it'll happen soon. I say this, Peter, very strongly. They can't have, whether it's going in or not going in, they can't have a nuclear weapon.
Well, they went in.
I'd prefer the more friendly
They went
path.
in about an hour ago.
What the Israelis told
Whoa. Peter Ducey from Fox News blowing up the microphone.
women who are stationed in the Middle
They didn't
East.
tell me anything, but I said, look, there's a chance of massive conflict. We have a lot of American people in this area, and I said, we got to tell them to get out because something could happen soon. And I don't want to be the one that didn't give any warning and missiles are flying into their buildings. It's possible.
Yeah, and
So
he
I
got
had
the
to do
people
it.
out. We evacuated all non-essentials.
I had the choice. Do I do it or not?
And it was the right
Doing it
choice.
has its downside, but it also has its upside. Like you're going to save a lot of lives if it should happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Right? Thank you.
Mr. President, for Americans that are coming to Washington on Saturday for military parade,
It's going to be a great day.
What would you like folks to take away from that day? What would you hope that they would remember? And also, Mr.
President, our country is, and how strong our military is. We have the strongest military in the world. It's very interesting. 3 weeks ago, it was
Yeah,
the
so we're
end
going to have a
of
huge
world
military parade. I don't think the United States has ever had a huge military parade.
And I called France.
At least not that I can remember. We'll see.
Macron, who's a good man, I said, what are you doing? He goes, we're celebrating World War II, our victory. I said, your victory? Your victory. Tell me about that. And then I called somebody else, and I happened to speak to President Putin at the time. Now, in all fairness to him,
I get it. The French, they were defeated by the Nazis, right? But they still had a huge resistance. So it's a little unfair to say like France didn't help win the war. They did help. There was a huge underground resistance that was still going against the Nazis. They were still battling. Yes, they got overrun by Germany, as did a lot of countries. So it's a little tongue in cheek, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of unfair to France.
he lost 51 million people, and he did fight.
Yes, Russia did lose 51 million people.
Isn't it? He fought with us in World War II, and everybody hates him. And Germany and Japan, they're fine. You know, someday somebody will explain that, but I like Germany and Japan too. But Putin is a little confused by that, you know. He said, we lost 51 million people and we were your ally, and now everybody hates Russia and they love Germany and Japan. I said, let's explain that sometime, okay?
It's all about communism. That's why.
It's a strange world. But I
that's
will
why
say this,
communism.
look, I want them to go away saying how great our country is and how great our military is. And I was making all these calls. For some reason, I spoke to like 4 different places. Sir, are you celebrating? And I said, you know, we won World War II and World War I, right? We won them. And yet we're the only country that doesn't celebrate. Everybody's celebrating except us. And I said, we should celebrate too.
Yeah, okay, it's fair.
Several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What do they call it? No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off, and after years we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir,
go ahead.
Mr. President, sir, you made a lengthy posting today on Truth Social about Senator Rand Paul. Do you expect to see him at the picnic tonight, sir?
I do. I look forward to seeing him, actually. I like him. He's the hardest vote in the history of the U.S. Senate to get. Probably won't get him. But he's a very tough vote. I mean, he's a very tough vote.
Rand Paul is a Republican, but he is a fiscal hawk. He does not want spending. So he's probably not going to vote for the big, beautiful bill.
He understands how great this bill is. This is a great bill.
That's what he means by not getting him.
No tax on
there's just way too much
Security
spending
payments. It's unbelievable
in that bill
what
for Rand
happens. No
Paul,
tax on
senator from
overtime.
Kentucky.
You work overtime, no more tax. It's so.
Who's also a
those
former
are-
doctor as
those
well.
are big,
As
but
well.
they're
He's a
minor
not
compared
former.
to
He
the-
once a doctor.
the
Always
big
doctor.
things.
He's
Taxes
a medical
reduced.
doctor.
And let's look at the other side. If it doesn't get approved, a 68% tax increase, 68%, including the fact that the Trump tax cuts kick in. But it's a 68% tax increase and many other bad things. I don't even want to, some of them are so bad I don't even want to talk about them. I think it's one of the greatest bills we'll ever pass in this country. And I think that Leader Thune and this gentleman right here, what he's gone through on this with, you know, we started off with a majority of 1. Now I guess we have 7. So it's like easier, but it's really sort of 3. It's 7, but it really equates to 3, right? And we have great support. I mean, I can't tell you, I can't guarantee, but when you have a majority of essentially 3, where you can't lose anything more than 3 votes, and you get it passed, it's pretty amazing. And I think it's going to haunt the Democrats because most of the bill is common sense. It's tax cuts, it's border wall funding, it's military funding properly spent. It's all things that are like common sense. They're all good. There's nothing tricky about it. It's basic stuff.
It's kind of tricky. We read it all 1,000 pages of it and went through it together.
One Democrat vote in the House.
I remember there's some things in there I said, this is...
Maybe somebody will
some
come
things in
along.
there are just...
I don't know how they can...
Well, I guess you're not
work
going to
well.
like everything, right?
So many
it's like a
different
buffet.
things. We're gonna
You're not going to like the egg rolls
Medicare
sometimes.
and Medicaid are going to be strengthened, not hurt. You know, they're using fake narrative. Oh, we're going to... No, they're going to be strengthened. We're going to strengthen them. They're going to destroy them because under their policies, Medicare and Medicaid go away. Social Security under them is going to be devastated. With us, it's going to be kept, but much stronger than before. And very interestingly, I saw this.
when he's talking about Medicare and Social Security, what he's doing in his big, beautiful bill, and we read through this, is that it's making it basically law that states have to go through the voter rolls or the registry rolls and all that stuff within those programs, and make sure that no one who's an illegal alien is getting them, that no one who's deceased is still on those payrolls and things like that. So it's a big, huge cleanup, and that's what he means by strengthening it. But there are some provisions in there that do shift some of the cost effectiveness from the federal government to the states, and the states are going to have to decide what they're going to have to cut in their budget, or if they're going to raise taxes to supplement Medicare and Medicaid as well.
And I proved it, because for 4 years, I never hurt Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. I've already been there. But they're going to destroy Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. They're going to wipe them out, in my opinion, because their policies are so bad, the country will have no money to pay for them.
Well,
we're going to make them stronger than
you
ever
can't
before.
argue with that.
Thank
We
you very
run out of
much,
money,
everybody.
Oh, there we go. All right. For a simple bill signing, he did an hour and 22 minutes, or he did basically an hour, probably 10, probably 12 minutes of other people speaking. Damn, he was just going on. It was amazing. Okay, well, poof. I didn't expect it was going to go that long. Oof. All right, back in. Well, I finally got to take my headphones off. Ooh, my ears are nice and warm. I have no idea what happened to my dog. My dog is just all pissed off at me. He's just pissed. He's like, I'm trapped in this room and I want to get out. And I'm like, I can't, I'm streaming. All right. With that, we're going to end it there. It's been awesome streaming once again, being back on, and YouTube is fixed. I will be back on tomorrow, and we'll have more news to cover and see what exactly is going on out there. So with that, I'm still your reluctant gringo. Thank you for joining me. Salut, a huevo from south of the border. Have a great rest of your night.